to the GBSS Auditorium this Thursday, October 24th from 7 p.m. Youth Talk, a series of engaging town hall meetings to be held in each parish targeted at engaging the nation's youth. Come share your voice and ideas to make a difference. Be heard, be involved, and be the change you want to see in your community and your country. This is your chance to share insights, feedback, and suggestions affecting youth and to create a platform for open dialogue. It's your space. We want to hear from you. It's your opportunity to inform policy and program development, strengthen community ties, and foster youth engagement in national development, education.
Honorable Delma Thomas, Minister for Youth, Sports, Mental Health, Wellness, and Religious Affairs. Honorable Ron Redhead, Parliamentary Representative for St. George Northeast. Senator the Honorable Seville Francis, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Youth and Sport. Ms. Colleen Perriman, Coordinator of Youth. Youth Parliament candidates for the parish of St. George. Other specially invited guests. Staff at the Ministry of Youth. Media personnel, viewers online, and last but by no means least, you, the youths of Grenada. Good evening. I am Karine Francis John, and I am pleased to be the moderator for this evening's session. I am a teacher, social issues advocate, and national youth ambassador. I kindly ask that you put all cell phones on silent to avoid interruptions. Also, you are encouraged to engage fully in this evening's session, and this might be more achievable if we put our cell phones away. I know. By doing so, we can fully immerse ourselves in the discussion and foster a more enriching experience. Let us make the most of our time together. Thank you for your anticipated cooperation. In all that we do, we must acknowledge the Lord. So let us stand as Mr. Kwesi Pope, Youth Parliament candidate for St. George Northeast, leads us in prayer.
Let us pray. O Lord, our gracious and heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us all here safe and sound. We pray, O Lord, that you will bless tonight's proceedings and let them prove to be fruitful. O Lord, our God, we pray that in the end, we'll all make it home safe and sound. We ask for all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Pope. Before we continue, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Honorable Andy Williams, Parliamentary Representative for St. George South. Thank you for being here with us tonight, Mr. Minister. We are not done praising the Lord. I know you took your seats, but I invite you to stand again as we continue with our devotion. I invite Mr. Akim Williams, Youth Parliament candidate for St. George Northeast, to lead us in worship.
Hallelujah. Good night, everybody. It's okay if I take it off. So how many of us are grateful to be alive tonight? Wave at me if you're grateful to be alive. If you're grateful that God give you breath in your lungs today, and we can be here to make a contribution and make an impact. Give me a wave again. All right, so we're going to sing a few choruses, and I encourage you to join me tonight. And the first one is Good night. Is it possible? Technicians, people, can I have a little bit more volume, please? Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it. Don't want to force tonight of a concert tomorrow. Thank you. So the first song is Hear My Cry, O Lord. Attend unto my prayer from the ends of the earth. Will I cry unto thee? All right, so the singers in the room, if you could do parts, we're looking for your support, all right? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Hear my cry, O Lord. Attend unto my prayer. From the ends of the earth will I cry unto thee. And when my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. That is higher than I. Hear my cry, O Lord. And hear my... Let me hear you. From the ends of the earth, from the ends of the earth. And when my heart is overwhelmed, and when my heart is overwhelmed, say, lead me, Jesus, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. That is higher than I. Lord, I give you my heart. I give you my soul. I live for you alone. Every breath that I take, every moment I'm awake. Lord, have your way in me. Lord, I give you my soul. I want to live for you. I live. Every breath, say, every moment I'm awake. Lord, have your way. Lord, have your... One more time and say, Lord, I give you my... And I give... Thankful to be here, and we're thankful to be able to contribute. And so... Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. We want to thank you. We just want to. We want to. We want to. One more time, say thank you, Lord, and thank you. If you mean it, let me hear you say thank you. Oh, we thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Say, I just want to thank you. I just want to. We thank you. Oh, we thank you, Lord. You, Lord. Say he's been so good. You've been so good. Every day, every hour, you've been so good. Oh, my Lord, you've been so good. So we just want to thank you, Lord. I just want to. We want to thank you. We want to thank you. We just want to thank you, Lord. Say, we just want to thank you. We just want to. We thank you. Oh, we thank you, Lord.
I too would like to thank you for leading us in devotion, Mr. At this point, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Claudette Joseph, Attorney General of Grenada and Minister for Legal Affairs, Labor, and Consumer Affairs. Thank you for joining us. Let us pay homage to Grenada by singing the national anthem, which will be led by Miss Kadeen Smith. Let's welcome Miss Smith. My apologies for that change, but let us invite Miss Sanika McKee, who will lead us in the national anthem. Welcome, Miss McKee.
Hail, Grenada, land of ours, we pledge ourselves to thee. As hearts and hands in unity to reach our destiny. Ever conscious of God, being proud of our heritage, may we with faith and courage aspire, build, advance as one people, one family. God bless our nation.
Wow, what a wonderful rendition of our anthem. Please have your seats. And one thing, as youths, we are blessed with different abilities. I know Miss McKee and Miss McKee was able to lead us in the national anthem, and I know that I don't have the ability to do that so gracefully as she did. So thank you once again, Miss McKee. To officially welcome you to this evening's engagement, I invite Miss Yuvana Mark, the Youth Parliament's candidate for South St. George.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a bit nervous, so bear with me. Prime Minister of Grenada, let's not forget Kareku and P.T. Macnick, Honorable Deacon Mitchell, Minister for Youth, Sports, Mental Health and Wellness, and Religious Affairs, Honorable Delma Thomas, Minister for Mobilization, Implementation, Transformation, and Parliamentary Representative for South St. George, Honorable Andy Williams, Parliamentary Representative for St. George Northeast, Honorable Ron Redhead, Honorable Claudette Joseph, Attorney General and Minister for Legal Affairs, Parliamentary Secretary within the Ministry of Youth and Sports, Civil Francis, and to my fellow youths and future leaders, welcome. Let me start by saying, if someone had told me a few years ago I'll be standing here welcoming all of you to this town hall meeting, I probably would have smiled politely and think it's just a dream. Well, I guess dreams do come true. But I am here today not just as another youth, but as one of the youth parliament candidates for South St. George to welcome you to this evening's youth town hall meeting. My name is Giovanna Mack, and we are about to do something special today. Today, we are not just attending another event, we are stepping into a space where our voices matter, our ideas take center stage, and we truly have the power to shape our future. We are here under the theme, your voice, your ideas, our future, be heard, be involved, and be the change. And trust me, this is not just another catchy slogan for a flyer. This is about us, the young people of Grenada, coming together to share our thoughts and our concerns and some of our crazy ideas. And I know you have a few. On behalf of the Ministry of Youth and everyone behind the scenes who worked hard to make this event possible, welcome to St. George Youth Town Hall meeting. Sorry, I'm in campaign mode. Thank you for being here, and let's be heard, be involved, be the change. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mark, and thank you for accepting the challenge and being the youth candidate for your constituency. Tonight is one of the many examples of the hard work and efforts of the Ministry of Youth. And so to deliver remarks on the achievement of the Division of Youth, let us welcome Ms. Colleen Perriman, Youth Coordinator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Delma Thomas, Minister for Youth, Sports, Mental Health, Wellness, and Religious Affairs. Honorable Ron Redhead, Parliamentary Representative for St. George Northeast. Senator, the Honorable Civil Francis, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Youth and Sports. Honorable Andy Williams, Parliamentary Representative for the St. George South. Senator, the Honorable Claudette Joseph, Attorney General and Minister for Legal Affairs, Labor, and Consumer Affairs. Young people, members of the staff of the Division of Youth, persons who are listening on the live, everyone, good evening. Good evening. When young people are gathered, we have to feel them and we have to hear them. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. It is my pleasure to discuss with you or to chat with you or to tell you, whichever one you prefer, about some of the achievements of the Division of Youth for the year thus far. The division held its Youth Leadership Workshop on October the 12th to 13th at the Grenada Youth Center. There we engaged 49 young leaders and youth advocates from various communities and local youth organizations. The division looks forward to engaging another cohort of youth leaders on the 9th and 10th of November at the St. Martin Retreat Center, which we have over 60 young persons already registered for. What is this workshop about? Why are we hosting this workshop? This initiative is a result of the declining number of active community organizations and groups and the Division of Youth's knowledge of the importance of these groups on the grassroots impact of holistic youth development. Therefore, this initiative is meant to build the capacity of the participants and to empower them to return to start or further develop their organizations and groups to maximize their impact. This program is basically geared for persons who are on executive teams within their various community groups, where we engage them in topics such as financial literacy, project management, communication, and a number of different areas that can help build the capacity when they return to their organization. One of our pride in the Ministry of Youth is that of the rebranding of the National Youth Parliament program. Last year, we took some steps to add some more value to this long-established program. One of this such new initiative is that of the National Youth Election. Earlier in the second quarter of the year, we engaged over 96 young persons in debates across the island on various current policy decisions that was tabled by the House of Parliament, such as the firearm regulation and the universal secondary school education, after which 29 young persons were selected to represent their constituency at the inaugural youth election. Today, we have our representative from St. George, and I would just like to introduce them to you. And before I do that, let me ask, how many of you are registered for the National Youth Election thus far? How many of you are registered? So that's not good enough. So I'm going to ask you to take out your phone. I would not feel disrespected. Go on to youthelections.gov.gd right now and register. It takes less than 5 minutes. If you can't register right now because it probably would ask you for ID, a picture of your ID, I'm asking you to do yourself a favor and to do so when you return home. Youthelections.gov.gd. Now, let me just introduce you to your candidates in the various constituencies in St. George, and then I'll talk a little bit more of this. Kwesi Pope and Akim Williams, St. George Northeast. St. George Northwest, Jamal Mitchell and Angela Bowen. St. George South, Jonathan Mitchell and Giovanna Mark. St. George Southeast, Vernique Lewis and Symphony Lord. Tongue of St. George, Ramaya Griffith and Melissa Julian. Right. So, back to the registration. If you're between the ages of 16 to 35, you're eligible to vote. Now, why are you voting? You're voting to ensure that your voice is heard on the national level when it comes to youth voice on policy-making decisions. These young persons that you see standing here, at least one of them from your constituency will be representing you in the House of Parliament at the national youth election. These young people have a responsibility to take your voice, your concerns, your solutions, your ideas to bills that the actual House of Parliament have before them and they're preparing to implement into law. These young persons also have a responsibility to engage in youth participation and youth activities and projects within the community that would augur for your self-development and your holistic empowerment. They will have access to grant funding each year that will allow them to host different projects, different activities within your community. Now, the Division of Youth has taken the responsibility to add value to this particular program and to not just allow it to be a mock exercise, but one that have actual implication on our policy decisions here in Grenada. This is not a program that is widely done throughout the Caribbean. Throughout the Caribbean, there are about probably 4 countries or so, if all that are doing a program like this. So I'm asking you to please participate in this inaugural exercise where you are actually allowing your voices to be a part of important decision making that will affect you, not then, not in the future, but the minute it's decided upon. Yeah? So how many of you guys are going to register to vote by tomorrow morning? It doesn't matter who you vote for. Only one person you could vote for. Yeah? So I'm just asking you, please go on to our pages, MOYGND on Instagram, Facebook, Ministry of Youth and Sports, and find out how you can register to vote and be part of this process. Earlier this year, we opened our Youth Ambassador program. To this end, we have 80 youth ambassadors who are preparing to engage formally in the program, starting with workshops, and training before they are officially launched to you, where they too would have access to grant funding to do work within their community that you require them to do. We had our job preparedness workshop where we assisted over 200 young people to help them to prepare for the world of work by helping them with their cover letters, their applications, helping them with their CV building, and preparing them for interviews. We had 2 job fairs where we engaged over 600 young people in the Esplanade Mall and Grenville Car Park, where we had over 14 institutions at each, where young persons could have gotten direct access to either jobs or to skill building training, where they can now position themselves for the world of work. We had our AI Youth Summit, where we engaged over 60 young persons in this informative initiative, empowered Grenadian youth in AI technology, equipping them with skills and knowledge to excel beyond traditional employment, where they can take the skills, the tenets of this particular workshop, and they can seek their own employment with just their personal device. We held our Empower program, which was launched last month, where we had over 461 young men from various backgrounds engaged in that particular program. However, today we have over 500 young men who have since joined the program, and they are currently engaged in core life skills training. If you look at our Instagram and Facebook page, you would see our docu-series. We are in our first season of our docu-series, where we have 10 episodes. We have a few more to release, where we are highlighting extraordinary young men and women who are doing remarkable things in the space of youth development in various sectors throughout Grenada. And we're excited to launch season 2 in 2025. So if you are a youth extraordinaire, please reach out to us so you can be featured in season 2. And these are just some. I'm sure there are more, and I'm telling you there are more, but I don't want to bore you. I know we have a number of speeches, so I'm just going to yield so that you can hear from some of our speakers this evening. I encourage you again to reach out to us, to follow us on Instagram, MOYGND, and Facebook, Ministry of Youth and Sports, to find out what we are up to and how you can participate in some of our programs, projects, and activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perman. And as you heard, the Division of Youth is doing a lot to support youth development. I can attest to how beneficial the Executive Leadership Workshop was 2 weekends ago when I attended, and although it was free, I left with a wealth of knowledge. So I'd like to thank the Division of Youth for such an initiative. The workshop, I implore on you to attend. It allows you to network with others. It was there I met people like Mr. Kwesi Pope. And the Division of Youth continues to provide opportunities for young people to grow. I can say this evening is my first time doing something of this nature, like this. So the Division of Youth is also providing opportunities for young people to gain experiences. So thank you. As we continue, I am pleased to invite Parliamentary Representative for St. George Northeast, Honorable Ron Redhead, to the podium.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to come out of the comfort zone, so to speak, and come and talk to you a bit more direct. But first off, let me start off by recognizing the Honorable Thomas, Minister for Youth, Sports, and Mental Wellness and Religious Affairs. Let me also recognize Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Youth, Sports, Senator Civil Francis. Let me also recognize on the head table the Coordinator of Youth. Let me recognize also my colleague, Attorney General, Senator Claudette Joseph, who is also the Minister for Labor, Legal Affairs, and Consumer Affairs. I know somewhere I saw Minister Andy Williams. I don't know where he is right now, but wherever you are, sir, welcome, and thanks for coming. Most importantly, let me recognize you, the young people. Now, tonight, I was asked by the minister to give some brief remarks, but I must confess, I ain't write nothing. So, what you want me talking about coming from the head, and most importantly, coming from the heart. So, tonight I want to touch briefly on two sectors. One, the agriculture sector, and two, the private or business sector. And also, I'll just share with you some of the things that we are doing in my constituency, which is St. George Northeast, to help enhance the potential and capacity of our young people. So, as it relates to agriculture, I'm sure some of you are familiar with the statement that you can't keep doing the same old thing, the same old way. Help me finish, because you'll get the, I can't hear, you'll get the same results. Exactly. And so as it relates to agriculture in Grenada's context, and more so in the Caribbean, third world countries' context, I believe, and certainly the government believes, that we need to enhance this and change it. One of the things that we need to ensure, and for a farmer, and you could bear me out, and I'm only putting this out here for you to give food for thought so that it could get your creative and innovative juices flowing, is that when we look at building the resilience of the agricultural sector, we have to address two things in agriculture, for example. One, a farmer requires a guaranteed market for his produce. That's one. And two, the farmer, despite of all what you may hear about a farmer should work and do his trade, etc., he or she requires assistance with the input. If we are to increase production, just like a hotel would get good concessions, a farmer must have some kind of concession or cushion for the inputs to ensure that we could increase production. And the need to look at it in that aspect is critical, because when it comes to agriculture, in terms of the future, and linking it, for example, to Vision 75, we need to see how we can innovate the business. I'll give you an example. A young woman came to my constituency office not too long ago to say to me that she is a producer of tea bags in the community of Lamwood. So I say, well, that is the biggest kept secret. I never heard about that before. And she explained to me all the things that she is doing. So what's up, etc., etc. And her challenge right now is that she do not have resources, capital, to be able to purchase some equipment to be able to innovate, which will help to increase her production and certainly increase the supply of what she can provide, ultimately increasing the profits that she can make. And so when it comes to policy, the need to ensure that small farmers get some kind of steady, persistent support to be able to increase production is the way we ought to go. So I'm just putting this out there for food for thought. Certainly you will be able to ask questions and probably give your own suggestions as we go along. The other sector I want to touch on briefly is the business sector. Now, since the colonial era, Grenada and the Caribbean essentially has been the dumping ground to consume products. So for example, we are not manufacturing laptops, but we consume laptops, and we have to deal with the question of electronic waste. When we talk about business and the need to innovate, the first thing we believe that we must put forward is the whole question of research and development. And what do I mean by that? Now, RD allows us, just in your own corner, without a scientific term, you can do your own research and develop your own solutions to your own challenges. That's the kind of thinking that we want to inspire. And so, as a business person, you need to ensure that you're not going to do the business the same old way, because you'll get the same results, like all the others who have come before you and they failed. So, taking note of business's failure, but also applying the question of innovation, is where you need to get your mind going, if you understand. Am I making any sense? Are you sure I'm fine? Are you convincing? Are you sure I'm making sense? All right, that's good, that's good. All right, and so that's the kind of thinking. So as I mentioned, we're just touching briefly on these two sectors from my standpoint. And also let me just talk a little about how I see the young people in St. George Northeast and some of the things that we are doing. Now, we have developed a model, which is to say that we are seeing the young people both from a positive standpoint and essentially a negative standpoint. And I want to zero in on the issue of unemployment among young people. One of the ways we have been able to go about doing what we are doing is not by kivai, it's not by chance, right? And I'm not someone who like gimmicks. So I'll put it this way. We have identified that one of the negatives for young people as it relates to unemployment is a question of them being underemployed, and of course, unemployed, but more so, unemployable. And so, after categorizing the young people in those groups, we are able to create some measures to be able to assist. One of which is that rather than just letting the young people come for the usual money or financial support, we are ensuring that we assist them with educational support. We are ensuring also, and I'm certain many of you would like that, because you know how difficult it is. If you want to pursue a little course, whether it is skill, most time, you don't have the capital, $2,000 or more, to be able to meet that. And the other element is to ensure that the young people who seemingly are unemployable can go the route of creating their own business, irrespective if it's small. So, looking at it in that capacity, for example, you get a young man who may, if he get a weed eater, he could be able to now register that business. He could start landscaping throughout a particular community. He can get some additional equipment. He can hire two people, and he could start taking private sector jobs, start getting little government contracts, clean pastures, wherever, and start building his or her own small business. And so these are some of the examples and approaches that we are using in St. George Northeast to engage our young people more so in meaningful engagement, and not just one that is piecemeal and haphazard and looks at the situation ultimately from the standpoint of just giving you a fish, but we want to certainly teach you how to fish. And so here ends my opening salvo, and I look forward to your questions, young men and women. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Ron Redhead, for charging us with the responsibility to find innovative ways to improve agriculture, how we do agriculture and business in Grenada. And it's up to us, young people, to find those solutions. So please, let your voices be heard in forums like these. Our next speaker is the Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Youth and Sport, and she is a passionate youth advocate. Help me welcome Senator the Honorable Seville Francis to the podium.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Allow me to acknowledge the presence of Honorable Delma Thomas, Minister for Youth, Sports, Mental Health, Wellness, and Religious Affairs, the Honorable Ron Redhead, Parliamentary Representative for St. George Northeast, Ms. Colleen Perryman, Coordinator of Youth and Sports at the head table, Senator the Honorable Claudette Joseph, Attorney General, and Minister for Legal Affairs, Labor and Consumer Affairs, and Minister Andy Williams, Parliamentary Rep for St. George South, to the future of Grenada, our young people, the media, those online, and everyone within the hearing of my voice. A pleasant evening to all. Tonight is all about you, the young people. It's not about us, it is about you. And that's why tonight's theme incorporates these 3 words: your voice matters. What this means for us at the Ministry of Youth and Sports, particularly at the Division of Youth, it simply means that the reason we're having this meaningful engagement with you is so that we can know what it is you need from us. How can we help you? We are here to serve you. That is the reason why we were placed in these positions. So I want you to get out of your comfort zone, develop the courage, and approach us. This is the reason why we put on this initiative, so that you can feel that you not just feel, but be a part of the decision-making process for you, the future that you and that we are creating for you and that you are helping us to create together. So the importance of your input. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why should we come here and just say what is affecting us? What will that do for us? What are you going to do with that information? So what I can tell you is that we are going to take that information, everything that you share here with us. It is also the reason why it is being recorded, so that you can hold us hostage, literally, and say, it is there. The record proves and shows that we had this as a concern. What are we doing to address those concerns? Now, we may not be able to address everything. We may not be able to fix everything. But because you are so amazing and so brilliant, and because you are the future, I am almost 100% positive that you will be able to come up with creative and innovative ways to help solve and curb some of the issues that may be affecting you. So we are going to compile the information that you share with us, and we are going to use that to help us to budget properly. We are going to also use that to help us to develop appropriate policies that will be put in place to serve you best. I do not want to be very long because, as I said, it's all about you, and I want to give you enough time to gather your thoughts, ask your questions. But I want to end by sharing with you this quote from Nelson Mandela, and I shared it with the St. Andrew cohort, and I think it's also important to share it with you, the St. George cohort. The youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow, but in reality, you are not just the future, you are the present. So you are the future leaders now. So don't think that the future is very far off. What you are doing here right now is helping us to lead you in the right direction, lead this country in the right direction, and to prepare a future and a country that you would be proud to live in. So I want to commend you all for being here, looking at the room being almost filled to capacity with just 1 or 2 seats in between. It shows that you are interested in the future, the development of this country, because one day when we are gone, you will be the one to lead, direct, and take charge. So I encourage you to be honest, open, respectful in tonight's conversation, in tonight's dialogue, and I wish you all the best in your future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Seville Francis. Before we continue, can anybody tell me when the national youth election will be held? Nobody knows? Don't be afraid. Sorry? December 5th. Thank you very much. Yes, so registration, by way of information, registration closes on the 22nd of November, and election day is the 5th of November. So please, we encourage you again to register and vote on the day. Help me welcome the Honorable Delma Thomas, Minister for Youth, Mental Health and Wellness, to the podium. and sports as well. Minister Delma has a lot on her plate, and we thank her for being here tonight. Welcome, Minister.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasant good night to everyone. I recognize my colleague, MP for St. George's Northeast, Senator Sybil Francis, Coordinator of Youth, Miss Perryman, my colleague in the audience, Honorable Claudette Joseph, and MP Williams. I'd like to begin by extending my heartfelt congratulations to two outstanding accomplishments. First, to Afi Fletcher, an incredible individual whose dedication to cricket continued to bring pride to our nation. Her achievements, inspire all of us, especially the young people. Secondly, to our national women's volleyball team for securing third place at the ECVA Championship. This is a tremendous accomplishment, and we are incredibly proud of their hard work and determination in representing Grenada on the regional stage. As a government, we recognize the effort behind the successes, and I am pleased to say that we have provided financial support specifically to our volleyball teams to help them in their journey. Our commitment to sports extends beyond volleyball. We continue to support other sporting disciplines, ensuring that athletes in all fields, whether it's cricket, athletics, football, or others, have the resources they need to thrive and compete at their best. Sports are a vital part of youth development, not just as a path to success, but as a tool for building character, teamwork, and national pride. Our ongoing investment in our athletes today reflects our belief in the immense potential within each of you to achieve great things. Now, we are gathered here for Youth Talk. I want to emphasize the importance of this engagement. This town hall serves as a safe space for all of you to express your views, concerns, and ideas openly. It is more than just a platform to speak. It is an opportunity to be heard, for us to take action based on what you share. This is just one aspect of our outreach, but we are also committed to meeting young people in their communities, in their neighborhoods, schools, and social spaces, to make sure we truly understand the challenges and opportunities you face in your everyday lives. This is your time, so it's not a time for me to be talking long here. Your space and your voice matters. Let's make the most of it as we work together to build a stronger, more inclusive society where the needs of the youth are prioritized. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister Delma Thomas. Thank you for your hard work and dedication. PAX 235, you are kindly asked to attend to your vehicle. Again, PAX 235, please attend to your vehicle. All right, so as young people, we enjoy entertainment, not so? True, we like to be entertained. I like to be entertained. And so at this point, I invite Miss Sonika McKee and Akia McKee to entertain us. Let's welcome them.
I'm one of the greatest of them all. Even when my wings are broken, I'll still stand tall. There ain't no mountains too hard to climb, but even if my wings are broken, I still can fly. I still can fly. Among the giants, I may seem small, but what they don't know about me, defeat them all. I'm mighty and powerful, I am unstoppable, a force to be reckoned with. You are a winner, you can fly. Yeah, you can fly. Oh, you can fly. Oh, you can fly. So don't hold back. No, no. Give all that you've got. All that you got. It's your time to shine. Time to shine. Give all that's inside. Sing it one more time. So don't hold back. And give it all you got. Give all that you've got. Whoa, whoa, whoa. It's your time to shine. Shine on, shine on. Give all that's inside. Whoa, whoa. Spread your wings and fly. Oh, you can fly. Yes, you can fly. Oh, you can fly. So don't hold back. Give all that you've got. It's your time to shine. And give all that's inside. Spread your wings and fly. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for sharing your musical abilities with us, ladies. I believe when you started to sing, the rain started to fall. So the next time, listen, the next time someone says to me, Karen, stop singing before the rain starts falling, I am going to take that as a compliment because their singing was indeed melodious and wonderful. Thank you. All right. So at this point, I'd like to open the floor to our youth parliament candidates and invite them to just share a short word if they would like to do so. From St. George. Or any candidate who is here, if you'd like to utilize this opportunity and say something to the youths who are gathered here with us this evening, you are free to do so. And I see we have one of our youth candidates, Mr. Akim Williams. So let's hear from him.
Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody. All right, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Akim Bradley Williams from the proud, mighty St. George Northeast constituency. Yes, Northeast? And so, what I want to say tonight is, I grew up where my community raised me. I grew up with a single mother who was considered mentally unstable. And I was reminded last week by a cousin of mine that on so many times, on so many days, I would go to my neighbors and my neighbors contributed to me. I want to also thank the government because in addition to that, my story is that I'm here today because of an initiative to convert the J.W. Fletcher Catholic Secondary School into a secondary school. I was failing and I got a second chance. Thank you. And so today I stand as the first male nutritionist for the parish of St. George, and I'm currently serving my community. I'm serving the single mothers, I'm serving the parents who may not have a lot to put food on the table, but still need to want to give their children a great start. To the youths of the mighty St. George Northeast, I was raised by the community and I'm giving back. And so you've poured into me and I am taking the opportunity to pour into you, so I beg your support and you won't be disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you, Akeem. And I see Mr. Kwesi Pope. He's heading to the mic. Let's welcome Kwesi.
All right, so a pleasant good night, everyone. Right, so my name is Kwesi Pope, and I'm one of the candidates for St. George Northeast. Unlike my worthy opponents, let's give a round of applause. I mean, that story was very touching. Right? Yes, yes. I grew up in a nuclear family. Now, my parents, they were big givers. We supported the community, our church, and my sister and I, we love to communicate with our neighbors and the children and to help them. I attended the Presentation Brothers College, you know, the Prime Minister Factory of Grenada, right? So, right. So I attended the Presentation Brothers College. I went to TMI Show Community College, did social sciences, sociology, psychology, because I wanted to help people, right? One of my biggest influences was my uncle. He went in England, was a psychologist. And when I was 6 years old, I asked him, why did you want to be a psychologist? And he told me, it is because as a psychologist, he can empower people, especially the youths. And I took that to heart. And that is why, when I went to TAMCC, when I went to SU, I went to get my degree in psychology. Because empowering the youth is extremely important to me. And I promise this day, as I promised many youths from Bolio, Boca, Lamode, Montparnasse, Tempe, Willis, New Hampshire. Do we have any wonderful youth from any of those areas? Yeah. Say yeah. Right. I like the vibes. And I promise, you elect me, I would ensure that there will be programs for youth empowerment, mental health support for youth, and youth who want to start businesses, they get that support. I am your candidate, you support me, and we'll go places. Bless up.
And I can tell you that is the authentic Kwesi Pope. That's Kwesi being himself. Thank you, Mr. Pope. Would any of our... All right, I see we have another candidate. Go right ahead.
Hello, good night, everyone. My name is Angela Bowen, representing St. George Northwest. Thank you. I am living in Brizan, and I am very proud to be here and represent the persons living in the area of St. George Northwest. At first, I lived in St. David's. I moved after my mom's passing to St. George's. I went to the Anakin High School. I'm currently a second year in TAMCC studying business, law, and Spanish. Gracias. What can I say? Thank you. Y'all laughing with me? Okay.
Come on, let us encourage her. Let us encourage her.
I'm very happy to be here and have this opportunity and be blessed enough to talk. When I was little, I wasn't much of a talker. I was very much a back out of class. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity I have now to represent and speak for those who don't have a voice. And by voting for me, I promise to bring change. I promise to bring back community spirit. Everyone is on their phones. It's not a bad thing, but I think there could be more connection in community, like having harvest more often, having other initiatives and engagements with the youth. Okay, that's it from me. Thank you so much. My name is Angela Bowen.
Thank you. And you prove how diverse we are as young people. You spoke about studying Spanish, business, and I believe it was law. Wow, very, very different fields. So all the best in your educational journey.
Testing. Lovely, 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 lovely. So good night, everybody, right? My name is Jamal Mitchell. I am a candidate for the St. George Northwest District. And we have a lot to talk about. Now, I have a book in front of me, and I'm going to talk about a few things, which later on I will relate these notes in my conversation with the Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a Hello, right. So there is a financial matrix that we need to be aware of. Money flowing through our economy. Money flowing through our economy is called a financial matrix. Now, I'm gonna explain to you guys what is financial literacy. Financial literacy is the possession of Financial literacy is the possession of skills, knowledge, and behaviors that allows an individual to make informed decisions regarding monies. Financial illiteracy is the cognitive understanding of financial components and skills such as budgeting, investing, borrowing, taxation, and personal financial management. The absence of such skills is referred as financial illiterate. My introduction is to you. We are the young people, and we have a future. We alone know our true potential. And once we find that light, that North Star that we have inside of us, nobody can take that away from you. No matter who is making the decision, we as young people, we have a voice. I am your voice, and I will project your issues, and we will come up with a solution to that. I'll give you a backstory about me. I went to 2 secondary schools. I didn't know why I transferred, but God alone knows. So trust God plan. When God plans something for you, you have to trust Him. Put your trust in God. So I went to Happy Hill Secondary School, and I went to GBS Secondary School. I graduated from GBSS. And I was a barber in Form 3 to Form 5. We started a barber club in this school where we gave free haircuts. I gave free haircuts to those who couldn't afford because I saw the need for it. Students were locked out of the gates. Students were being sent home and their parents cannot afford to give them monies to do their haircut. It's a financial matrix, brothers and sisters. And we need to be aware of how to escape from this matrix. Based on my understanding, there are plenty of grants that are testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are grants made available through different ministries. Now, later on in my presentation, I will show you how we as young people can benefit from more than one ministry by obtaining an ID. Sometimes you hear about ID, all comes to your mind is NIS and your voter's ID. But some of us, there are fisherman ID, farmers ID, tourism IDs. Now, funds are passing through and they can reach to you. But you need your ID. GIDC, SIEP, all of these brands come together. Now listen, there are corporations, there are organizations that we can be a part of. But just stick up in. Because we need a steady foundation before we can tap into these resources. So we need to make a start now. Listen to my presentation and you yourself can ask a couple questions. Remember, November the 22nd is a deadline for the registration for the National Youth Parliament. Trust me, I will be there. And I will voice everybody concerned. And let me tell you one more thing. By next year coming, I know for sure they are going to have a higher percentage of young people receiving grants. And these funds will not have to go back to the funders, but it will stay in Grenada. The funds will stay in Grenada, and it will circulate through our economy, and we will have more to offer besides fried chicken to the foreigners. Thank you.
Testing, and I have to test mine too. We can learn so much from the youth once we give them a chance to speak. And I know when you started, throughout your presentation, you had some challenges with the mic, but you continued, because as youths, we are resilient. So thank you for that presentation. We'll now entertain another youth parliament candidate. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Good night, all. My name is Symphony Lord, Youth Parliament candidate for the constituency of St. George South East. I am also a Form 5 student of the Anglican High School. No, I am honored and proud to be a part of this initiative at my stage, being in school, doing CXC, but still being a part of this initiative for the national youth elections. Now, for me, I do not allow my age nor gender to determine my ability or what I can offer to you, my community, my nation. If I'm elected, what you'll get is someone who is driven by God. I believe it is my purpose to be here. No, I have always been involved in the arena of debate, youth leadership. I participate in the Grand Lake debate. I've been a part of the youth parliament, and I believe it is my purpose. I'm here for a reason. So if I'm elected, you will get someone who is driven by God, as it is my purpose. I go to him for guidance. Everything I do it through his strength, not mine. So if I'm elected, that's what you'll get. I'm giving you plain and clear. I'm telling you what I bring to the table. Now, I'm Symphony Lord, Youth Parliament candidate for St. George Southeast. Thank you.
Thank you, Symphony. Thank you so much. Allow me to acknowledge the presence of Honorable Philip Tellisford, Parliamentary Rep for St. George Southeast, and also Ms. Neela Etienne, our Press Secretary. Thank you for joining us. Do we have any more Youth Parliament candidates who would like to share words with us tonight? Feel free. If we're going to lead, we need to lead by example. Wow.
I mean, come on, it's only right. I'm in my alma mater, the Grenada Boys Secondary School. My name is Jonathan Mitchell, the youth parliamentarian candidate for St. George South. Yes, South side, the best side. Exactly, right? So, you may ask, our next Mitchell again. Well, what going on with them Mitchell and them? Despite the jokes, right? I am a Grenada Boys Secondary School past student. And I think that the values that the Grenada Boys Secondary School has invested in me, I know Honorable Warner that could speak as well. I know Jamal could speak as well, right? It is very important that we, as past GBSS students, or wherever school you come from, we represent, right? We represent, and we represent well. So that's what I'm here to do, represent the youths. As my motto says, let's do this one for the youths. I'm not doing this for nobody else, but the youths and our country. So let's big it up. Let's give a round of applause, guys.
Thank you so much. And we have another candidate approaching. All right.
Good night, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well. No? Yes? Okay, that's good. My name is Vernique Lewis. I am the candidate for St. George's Southeast. It's a pleasure to be amongst you all. I am very tired. Yes, and it's okay for, well, parliamentarians to be tired. We're human, you know. But it is a pleasure to be here. Being a parliamentarian wasn't priority for me, but I mean, I joined it, and it is something I really enjoy. The experience thus far has been really good, and I hope for the best. Symphony Lord is my opponent, and I see her as a sister. My slogan is trust in God, vote with confidence, choose Vernique Lewis. Sorry if I sound really tired, but I'm tired. Tired. But in any case, I look forward for the best in this journey, and I'm going back and sit down.
Thank you. And we have another candidate.
Good night, everyone. Once again. My name is Giovanna. I reside at Woburn, St. George. I did not grow up in Woburn, but, you know, ended up living there. Now, as your youth parliament candidate, I'm going up against a young man by the name of Jonathan Mitchell. Now, Jonathan and I are cool. We have similar interests, and I'm grateful to have such a worthy opponent. But at the end of the day, I need you all to vote for me because I can guarantee that I am the best advocate that you can have for South St. George. One thing about me is I'm very into helping people. I myself have embarked on a journey where I have selected a few single moms which I help. And, there's a lot of things I do, but do not say. I'm also someone that advocates for skills and creativity because I believe not only does having a degree helps you to make income, but skills can make more than having a degree by simply being an electrician, a plumber. So I advocate that our young people, that you would go out there and we would advocate, myself, for more programs that would help you to become the better versions of yourself, businessmen and women, and young leaders to have a better future for us here in Grenada. Okay? Also, I have only gone to just a few communities, so I hope that when I go canvassing, that I would see some of you, and please register before November 22nd or on November 22nd so that you can have a chance to determine who would be your advocate for the next 2 years. Okay, thank you.
Good night, everyone. I am Melissa Julian, and I am the youth candidate for the Tongue of St. George. No, I am a teacher, right? But I am still very shy. So I joined Youth Parliament to help me enhance my public speaking. And here I am today. I was chosen to represent the Tongue of St. George, and I guarantee you I will do my best. Good night.
Thank you, and again, that is testament to what the Division of Youth does. It provides opportunities for young people to be able to grow and hone new skills. So thank you for making use of the opportunity to develop your public speaking skills. I, too, am on that same journey. If we do not have, we have another one. Yes, Mr. Kevon.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
No, I am not representing St. George's. I am still in a bit of the spotlight because I missed my opportunity. As was said, my name is Kevon George. I am the representative of St. Andrews Southeast, big parish St. Andrews, right? I just want to take the opportunity to say, register, right? That's my purpose here. The program gives the youths an opportunity to represent your concerns for the next 2 years. And in a serious way, in a serious capacity. It means that whoever wins the election for each of your constituency, that individual is that person that you would have to come to, right? To express your concerns. And if you are not comfortable, if you're not satisfied with the person that wins, if you didn't register and you didn't get the chance to vote, who are you going to blame, right? So, take the chance. Those listening to me online and those here tonight, take the opportunity. Take out your phones and register to vote. Also, of course, I must echo those sentiments to St. Andrews Southeast. All who's listening to me, you know who the best candidate is. Kevon George, right? I am a man, as I said, of my word. If I say to you that I will do something, I will do it. Remember the slogan, action and experience over idle words, right? We know the action stands for all the things I'm already doing and will continue to do for the constituency. Experience, because I've been active in this program since 2021. Right? And no idle words, because anything I tell you I would do, I will what? Thank you very much. I will do it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin. Just to remind you again, registration closes on the 22nd of November and election day is on the 5th of December. Do we have any other youth parliament candidates who would like to express their thoughts? If not, we will continue with the program. So at this point, the head table is ready to hear your observation, your suggestions, and your questions. So before we start, please be reminded that this is your space and time, so do not be afraid to speak. Do not be afraid to share. I ask you also to be respectful of everyone who takes the mic. Remember, as youths, we have to support each other, and so we're going to give everybody a chance to express themselves freely but respectfully. And just remember that your voice matters, your contribution matters. What you have to say, everybody on the stage, and even some of our ministers and our press secretary sitting here, they want to hear your opinion. They want to hear your voice. They want to hear what you have to share that can improve Grenada. So there is a mic to the center. Feel free to stand, approach, state your name and the village you're from or your constituency, and share your questions, concerns, observation as you please. PM 13, please attend to your vehicle. PM 13, please attend to your vehicle. So we are ready to hear from you, the youths of Grenada. Again, the mic is there. You can form a line, you can just stand up, approach, state your name, where you're from, and go ahead and share freely. So who is going to be that brave young person who is going to get us started? We came here this evening and we heard the speeches, we heard what the ministers had to say, we heard the senator, we heard the coordinator for youth, we heard the youth parliament candidates, and so it is your turn to express yourselves. All right, so somebody is getting us started.
Pleasant good night to all. Hope everybody had a wonderful day today. Minister, Honorable Delma Thomas, Senator, Minister, Secretary, Honorable Redhead, Coordinator of Youth. I just want to address order, protocol before I begin, and other ministers in the House, leaders, youth, parliamentarians, and everyone else. Good afternoon. Good night, sorry. I am Alistair Amada from Fontenoy, St. George. I am from St. George's Northwest. Don't mind me, I'm a bit mentally fatigued from work. Okay, so I myself were part of the Youth Parliament, and I want to give a special shout out to all the youth that have been participated and has taken it to another level. And I just want to say, we future bright. We future bright. Pope, Akeem, Fonique. I want to miss out anybody, but I can't call everybody for the sake of time. So get into it. As a youth that is a creative by heart, conscious, observant, from the time I heard about Youth Talk and I saw the videos going around about the first Youth Talk, from the moment time I heard about Youth Talk being in St. George's, everything for me to be here tonight speaking to you worked out. And firstly, I have two questions. One is an observation. The first one is, being a youth, right? I am a registered creative. Hats off to Goka, they're doing an amazing job. And I just want to commend the administration publicly, because as a creative, I am finally receiving my break. And Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique needs to know what the government is doing for all of the creatives in the island. The work has started, and it's time for we to rally behind this administration to continue working and implementing, just not working, but they're actually legislating for our creatives in the Tri-Island state. On this premise, I just want to point out something, because we begin to push, but we are still pushing against the tide. And what I mean by that, because for years we creatives, we were not appreciated, accepted. I'm sorry, I'd start playing bad manners, forgive me. We have been pushing against the status quo and the margin, but gradually we get in there. For instance, one of my issues is community-oriented. For instance, I am currently working on a project. Publicly, I can't say much about the project, right? But I have a project in the pipeline. Those who know, they know what I'm speaking about. And I went to apply to my community center in Fontenoy. Firstly, I spoke to all the necessary persons. Yes, in the beginning, I got through with the community center, but for a theater venue, the community center is not conducive and appropriate, because it have the space we can use, it's full of material. So for something I'm looking to start, I have to go and apply to Grand Mall Community Center. And mind you, I got through with Grand Mall Community Center. But I believe that steps should be put in place for any other forms of roadblock. Forget I'm being a creative right now, but I'm a youth. Hello, somebody. I am a youth, right? And steps should be put in place to include every youth. For instance, agriculture, creative, business-wise, whatever area or sector you may represent in our society. I believe that, and this is the way to hear us, but not only hear us, but do your research and find ways to eliminate those blockages. I ain't plan to be long, so let me wrap up. So like I said, yes, I got through, but I set a red tape because it is not conducive. So the conditions need to be improved for everyone to use it the way, to do something positive, right? Okay. Lastly, and I'm going to end here, something as a youth that has been burning my heart, that has been moving me, right? Yes, we all aware of the social climate right now in our Tri-Island state. And yes, society on a whole is moving places at times. It raises a lot of eyebrows, right? Just keeping it real here. But as a youth, I want to advocate, right? I want to advocate for something special tonight. And that is public transportation. Public transportation, because as a youth, many of us, we don't talk about it. But sometimes you have to pay a $250 to travel on a bus to one point to one point. And sometimes the mess, excuse my language, the toxicity that does be playing on local public. You have instances, I have seen children on public transportation buses, and the type of music, derogative, degenerating music that is being played. And yes, I know about the Bus Association and so on, but I believe that more structure, a systematic structure should be in place, that programs that you can not just bring any youth or person that are interested, but structure in a place that you can put certain stipulation in place for some other value. So everything could be better, because it's a service at the end of the day. And anybody that is offering a service, we know about customer service care. They have to be quality. So I'm not just speaking about me or other youth, but I'm speaking now about the children and our children. Something needs to be done. A line needs to be drawn. And at this point, I rest my case. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alistair. I concur with your second point about the music in observance of Child Month. I myself have written an article on how the type of music that's being played, how it might be affecting our children's behavior. So thank you for those points. I now turn to the head table.
So thank you very much for your contribution. And I'll start with your the last point you made. So we have to educate and advocate, and every one of us. Because as you say, it's private buses, and so we, as citizens, we have to be able to say to the drivers, and when you speak up, then we as government can take up those issues also. But we need your support to be able to say to the bus drivers that this music you're playing is not conducive and should not be played on a public transportation. So we are hoping that we can work with you to ensure that we can eradicate those kind of things on bus where we have our children and even adults. You know, so we have to be able to deal with issues like that. I also want to say that as it relates to public transportation, the government is looking at a policy as it relates to public transportation. We are hoping in the month of November to pilot. So we started with the schools and the same children you're talking about. So government is looking to pilot a project as it relates to providing buses for school children, and looking at St. George's and St. David's. So your parish will be in the pilot, and this pilot will go for a couple of months, and then with all things being equal, this will be replicated across Grenada. And so it is a start to government looking at public transportation, because apart from what you mentioned, we also know there are issues of workers from the rural country working in St. George's who cannot get bus at a particular time. So we are hoping that with this new policy, we can assist in eradicating that particular issue. You raised the issue of as a creative and having access to community centers, and I know that community centers are really meant for community use. So whatever the issues are, we are taking note, and the Ministry of Community Development, so I cannot speak in depth on it, but it's an issue that will be raised with that particular ministry. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Minister. Yes, go ahead. Sorry, before you make your point, Senator Seville Francis would like to respond.
Thank you so much, Alistair, for your concerns. It shows that the young people in our country are taking the initiative and taking the lead on things that are affecting them. And I am proud of you for starting the conversation about something of that nature. Too often we shy away from speaking up about things that have long-term effects. So while we may not see, we may think of it as, well, they're just on a bus for a 45-minute ride max or an hour ride max, and it may not affect them. But in fact, we know the power and the influence that music can have on a person. You're feeling down and out, you choose the genre of music that you put on. And it's the same thing. When the bus drivers are driving or playing a particular genre of music or type of music, or even the loudness of the music, it also affects the way how they drive. So it is an urgent call to the bus drivers to also take responsibility. Now, Minister spoke about us as civilians holding the drivers accountable, but I'm also encouraging the busmen, the bus drivers, the conductors to also take responsibility and be a leader for the passengers, the young people that you carry daily to and fro from school. Now, some of the music that you play on the buses, imagine you're pumping those kinds of music so early in the morning, transporting children to school. You are infiltrating their minds with negative thoughts. And then when they display certain things in school, then we blame. Yeah? So it is a ripple effect. It is a domino effect. And one thing can affect the other. I'm also putting the call out to us as young people to take accountability and responsibility for the things that we engage and indulge our minds in. What we feed our minds with is important. Yeah? So I just wanted to add to the conversation and say that.
I invite you to stand as we welcome Honorable Deacon Mitchell, Prime Minister of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit-Martinique. Mr. Prime Minister, you are here at Youth Talk, and so you're surrounded by young people. So know that you are in a good place. You have chosen a good place to be at tonight. You're welcome. You may have your seats. Yes. So we will continue with the questions. We have the young lady right here. Go right ahead.
Good night to all attendees, distinguished members, and with a special shout out to all honorable ministers. So I'd like to introduce myself. I'm going to keep it short and sweet in the interest of time because I know there's a lot of speakers here tonight. So my name is Renee Campbell. I'm one of the upcoming youth ambassadors for the constituency of the town of St. George's. I'm a part of very many different NGOs down here. I'm a director of 3 different ones. I'm actually a part of Seawill Caribbean Women in Leadership and just quite active in my community and finishing my master's in social entrepreneurship. So I have a few questions. I think the first one I really wanted to raise, or questions I should, concerns, what are your young professional program plans for the future? Also, what kind of programs or initiatives do you have for the kind of hidden years, so the older years of the youth, 25 to 35, and maybe going up to 40 years of age? I also wanted to talk about increasing entry points to highly skilled work and jobs. I think there are a lot of amazing programs that the ministry offers right now, but the large majority focus on entry-level work or vocational work or entrepreneurship, which is incredibly important. I mean, I am doing my master's in social entrepreneurship, but there is something to be said for the cohesion of traditional work. And the last thing, one at a time? Okay. Okay, so the very first one is young professional programs, which I guess you could tie it to the second question of creating more entry points for persons 25 to 40 for highly skilled work.
So we're just going to give the head table a second just to organize their thoughts so that you'll be able to get a comprehensive response.
So I'll start. So we have, in terms of, for young professionals, a program that is coming on stream, cybersecurity, which is training in cybersecurity. And this is supposed to be a pilot that will train over 100 young persons. And what it is, once you're successful, then you are assured to be employed with a salary not less than 2,000 Canadian dollars per month. So it's on the high end. And we are looking at other training in the IT field that will be unveiled at the end of all this youth talk. So we are hearing from you, the young people. The programs will come from you. Yes, within the ministry, we have particular programs in terms of training for young people, but we are listening to what you're saying, and we are putting our programs based on what comes from you, and we are developing that program based on what the young people are looking forward. So we are not just putting things down your throat, but we are asking you what are the things that you are interested in. And so our programs will be unveiled based on that. Government continue to provide scholarship assistance for young people in different fields. And so that will continue, and we'll look to intensify in terms of professional, in terms of not only ICT or academics, but other skill areas. And so, as I said earlier, our programs will be unveiled as we move forward.
Questions?
Right
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So my last question, well, a quick response. Please, when you're looking into more highly skilled programs, if you could venture more into the world or the, I guess, area of social development, just seen as it's kind of a global trending field, the social and solidarity community, and there's so many of us who are able to attain our qualifications online, it would be a pity not to utilize them. So my second question or concern that I really wanted to raise was if you're going to have any kind of diaspora-focused programs or ways to actually utilize the diaspora, because for the Caribbean, one of the most premier forms of income, or one of the leading, let's say, sections of the GDP is repatriation. So finding ways to utilize the diaspora, especially considering the Grenadian diaspora has more Grenadians living outside of the country than in the country, and me, myself, I'm a product of the diaspora, so I'll always champion for us. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions.
So on the issue of engaging the diaspora, I believe that we already started. In fact, in many of our boards, we have people within the diaspora as part of our boards. We have many health programs and other programs within the government sector where we engage and involve with diaspora. So we continue, and we will have more programs that will enable people in the diaspora with particular skill set to be able to walk along in Grenada or provide the necessary assistance that can be provided to Grenada. So we'll continue on that part, but we have already started.
Thank you, Madam Minister. The floor is open once again for more questions, concerns, observations. Feel free. Go right ahead.
Hello, good night. I'll say a special congratulations for all the youths that come out here today, and to the MPs who are listening to us. My name is Marcellus Noriga, and I have this one special question that I'd like to pose to each and every one of you. The question is, why is personal finance not a part of the curriculum, and how are we going to implement it? Thank you.
Can you repeat the question, please? Marcellus?
Oh, repeat? Okay. Why is personal finance not a part of the curriculum, and how are we going to implement it? Am I clear? Thank you.
Thank you, Marcellus.
So the Minister of Education is not here tonight, but I recall recently he was speaking about revamping the curriculum to include financial literacy at the secondary and maybe even starting at the primary school. So you will get more information on that maybe another time when the Minister of Education is there, since I do not have all the information on that particular issue.
I will also like to add that at the Division of Youth, we cater for young persons outside of the school system, 16 to 35. And as part of our community leadership workshops, etc., we are planning to include financial literacy programs and training for persons outside of school. We've started with the groups that I spoke about earlier, the executive leadership workshop, with crash courses and crash workshop sessions on financial literacy at the group level, but we are planning to bring it next year at the individual level in various communities. So thank you for that question, because we honestly do believe that it's important for sustainable livelihoods for young people to manage their money, no matter how big or small it may be.
And I can confirm that at the Executive Leadership Workshop 2 weeks ago, financial literacy was in fact one of the options to be a part of, right? So once again, remember to follow the Division of Youth's social media pages so that you can learn about initiatives that they have that can help teach us these things.
I also want to add, Madam Moderator, that the Division of Youth, we are offering opportunities in programs and trainings such as financial literacy and others that you may have in mind that you haven't spoken about. But it's important that when we put out the call for you to participate in programs like these, you do participate, because you yourself are missing on opportunities that can help you to better position yourself and build your capacity to get to that version of yourself that you wish to be. So another clarion call, please follow us on Instagram, MOYGND, Ministry of Youth and Sports, on Facebook, to find out what it is that we're doing. And you need to be part of the responsibility mechanism to be in the know, to engage and participate in what it is that we're offering.
Chairman. All right, I see another youth approaching.
All right, good night, everybody. My name is Kareem Doyle, and I have three things here, 3 questions that I want to ask. But first, I know when you're not hearing? Okay. So the first thing I wanted to point out is, while a presentation was being made earlier, it was stated that it is important that farmers have a guaranteed market for the produce. And one thing I know that is happening is that right now in Grenada, there is the feeding program within all of the schools where food is being provided, and that is free. Now, my recommendation will be for a partnership with the farmers by the ministry to ensure that they can be the one supplying all of those produce to the schools or to the persons providing those feeding programs, so at least they have that initial part of their produce being secured, right? Now, I have 3 questions. The first one has to do with the sustainability of the different things that are being implemented. And those things that I'm speaking of involve, again, the free school feeding program. The second thing, the free education, and the program that you spoke about earlier that may be implemented soon, which is the bus system. Now, it is good that those things are being done, and I can see the benefit of it. Now, my question comes to how sustainable would that be in the long run, and if it's the possibility that it might have an impact on taxes in the future. I would like for you to speak on that, please.
All right. So you've sparked the interest of the Honorable Prime Minister with that question.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Sorry for being late. I was in my constituency office seeing people, and you can't leave until you see the last person. So on the issue of the sustainability of the education up to TAMCC or NULO, or what I would call junior tertiary level, as well as the school feeding program, in our view, they're sustainable, and as long as Grenada is a country that wants to continue developing we'll have to continue investing in them. You see, education is expensive, but ignorance is double more expensive. And when you're a small island that doesn't have significant natural assets or any significant particular advantage, the only advantage you have is your people. So if you have to make choices, everything you give, you probably forego something else. But if you don't educate the population, and if you don't make the population curious, creative, hardworking, with the right values, there's no country. Because there's no other asset that can solve the problem or invent something or create something that can make money. The land itself doesn't make money. You could have oil in a country, you could have gold, you could have bauxite, but if the people in the country are not educated and know how to turn bauxite into aluminum, or be able to use gold other than as a gold bar, or be able to turn crude oil into gas, diesel, etc., then you're poor, because the crude will just sit there, or you'll have to sell it to somebody else to do so. So this is not even a question of cost, it's a question of ensuring that the state, the country, remains viable and sustainable. And so those are two initiatives that, from our perspective, as long as we have anything to do with it, we will sustain it, right? We spend a lot of money on other things that are not sustainable, that are not viable, and does not actually add to the knowledge bank of the citizens. I wouldn't give you examples of them just yet. So that is something that we have to look for. Certainly during this administration, there is no intention to raise taxes at all. As much as possible, if we can lower taxes, we will certainly try to do so. So the cost of the, both in terms of paying for the tuition at TAMCC and NILO, is quantifiable, it's pretty certain. We know how many students are going, we know what the cost is. It's not something that is unaffordable. And the same applies for the school feeding program. And of course, if you're in school and you're hungry, then you can't learn. Right, and the bus. Okay, so this is a pilot. We're going to start in St. David's and St. George. And the reason we're doing the pilot is because we want to obviously be able to know whether or not it can succeed on a national level. So instead of simply plunging along head first without actually doing an experiment, we are going to do the experiment first, we're going to do the pilot, and then based on that, we will know whether or not this is something we can do nationwide and the extent to which we can do it. But I'm just saying, for young people in particular, transportation costs to school is very expensive. So I think, I'll just use St. David's as an example. If you come into TAMCC, it's $350, although sometimes the busmen charge you $4. Right, so let's take $350, that's $7 a day. 7 5s are 35, that's $35 a week. So that's basically $150 a month. Now, if you are a single child in a family, then your parents will probably manage okay. But once you start talking 2 and 3 children, and if they all go into secondary school, you can multiply that $450 alone on transportation. And then you have food, clothes, etc., etc. So recognizing that, if we can find ways to help parents with ensuring that their children can come to school, it guarantees there's less likelihood of people dropping out of school because of transportation. Right? And I can tell you this because I saw it. If you go to National College, in the first semester, in our time, the economics class, the literature class was huge, probably as many people as here. By the time you go to the second semester, it's cut in half. And when you look at where the people are dropping it from, they're all from St. Andrew, St. Patrick, St. David, because they can't afford the bus fare. So at least we have to give them a chance to be able to stay in school, at least for the 2 years of TAMCC.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. I just want to add something to what Prime Minister said on the question of the sustainability of the free tuition, the school feeding program on the bus. Now, most of you here will not remember, and I myself barely remember, but as a student of history, I can tell you that before 1981, thereabout, secondary school education in Grenada was not free. There was a system under which if you performed really well in the top few people in the island in common entrance, you will get what is called a scholarship to a secondary school, in which case you didn't have to pay for the tuition. Everybody else who passed common entrance had to pay school fees. And in 1981-82, during the period of the revolution, the government decided to do away with that and to allow everyone who passed common entrance free access to secondary education. And that has been the case from then to now. So it is sustainable. We just have to have the administrations in place with the political will to make sure that it sticks. Similarly, the school feeding program actually was a very vibrant program during the period of the revolution. It's actually not a new initiative. And everybody got free lunch, healthy lunch at school every day. It fell into disuse at one point, and then there was a small fee added, but that all had to do with the governments, the respective governments of the day and their political will and what they focused on, which is why it's always important to elect the right people into office, right? So I wouldn't, if I were you, I would not worry at all about the question of sustainability. Also, during the period of the revolution, there was a program, there was the National Transport Service, NTS. And it was extremely cheap for everyone to travel throughout Grenada, Sunday to Sunday. And if I remember well, school children rode the NTS buses for free or very, very little. So back in those days, there were children from St. George's, for example. A lot of them went to St. John's Christian Secondary, and they were able to ride the bus. The NTS was stopped when the revolution collapsed, not because it was not viable, but because the new government had a different focus, and there was a deliberate and concerted effort to do away with as many of the programs of the revolution as possible, because it was like a cleansing. The ones that could not be done away with, like NIS and MNIB and so, survived, and the free education in school survived. But the NTS was one of those programs that were deliberately done away with because there was an effort to do these things. So we ought not to be afraid to take bold actions. And remember, we did say we come here to transform. Thank you.
I believe you have another question.
Yes, I have two more questions.
Okay.
But firstly, just want to say, I'm happy with the programs that you're implementing because, as you said, a lot of persons drop out during college. I was one of those students who dropped out during my first year because of the same challenge between paying the bus or eating, and I had also choose eating. So I dropped out eventually. And as you said, with families that has more than one children, it is definitely a challenge. And again, I have 15 brothers and sisters, so I know the challenge of having a big family and sending them to school. So I understand how those programs are going to have a positive effect on the community, right? My second question had to do with communication. And again, educating persons are very important. Now, communication is a challenge that I'm seeing not only in Grenada, but in other Caribbean countries. And the reason why I'm saying that, there are some agreements or some agreements that Grenada are part of, such as with the OECS or the Samoa Agreement, that allows us free trade, that allows us to be able to trade with the UK and other countries within the Pacific region. Now, the problem that we're having is that that information isn't known by most persons.
I'm sorry, can I ask you to just pause with your question, because I want everyone to hear your question so that they can appreciate the response that will come from the head table. So we're getting a little too loud, so I ask you please to be mindful of your noise level. And just like that, we're better. Thank you, young people. Awesome. Go right ahead.
So to continue, when it comes to communicating, there is a lot of things that we're a part of that we can benefit from. And as one of the candidates was saying earlier, there are grants, there are scholarships, there are several different things that are available to the people that we are not aware of, simply because communicating those benefits or those information to the mass is not really available or is not being done properly. So I want to make sure, or with that question, to see how can you help to improve communication, especially with things that will benefit or impact the people.
So the observation is valid and noted, and in a sense, having sessions like that is part of what we need to do to make sure that we can actually inform the public, inform groups or specific members of the citizens. For example, the youth population, what are some of the opportunities and benefits that might be available to them, either from Grenada perspective or from a regional or international perspective. Communication is very difficult now because you have a lot of distractions and you have a lot of means by which you can communicate: radio, TV, social media. And so sometimes it's hard to actually get people's attention. And even when you put a lot of information out, sometimes the more information you put out is the less people actually see it, because a lot of the important things are lost in it. So we also have to encourage a culture of curiosity and of paying attention to the right things as well. Sometimes we consume too much entertainment and not enough things that could actually help make a difference in terms of our lives. But I certainly agree that from a regional international perspective, ministries like the Ministry of Foreign Affairs need to do a better job of making sure that we can communicate things that are beneficial to us, that comes from a regional or international, whether it's treaty or institutions. And then from a domestic point of view, making sure that we can break it down in a way that people are very clear on what the opportunities are and what the benefits are for us from some of those organizations and institutions. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And the last questions that I have is something I saw recently on YouTube, and it was related to another country whereby someone from Nigeria had in one of their videos that they bought a passport from St. Lucia. And that is the way he termed it. And to me, knowing that it's part of the CBI program, I wasn't happy to see the way in which he was selling the fact that he went and bought a passport and now he has access. Currently, I know Grenada, or persons holding a Grenadian passport, has access to over 100 countries where they can travel freely because of the different agreements that we may have or relationships. My question has to do with, there is a negative impact that could happen. Though I know there is a lot of positive that comes from CBI, there are some challenges that may arise as well due to persons looking at it in a negative manner. Now, my concern is that some countries I know do not see it in a positive side. And I want to know, how do we ensure, I know there is a very rigorous interview process that they go through to grant those passports to people. But just to make sure that everybody is aware that we understand what is CBI and the impact it could possibly have on the people. I just want to get some education on that and how to move forward concerning it. Thank you.
All right, so I want to clarify, is your concern or process for ensuring that the persons who invest in the CBI are well vetted or checked? Or is your concern the fact that some people may see the CBI as a negative, and how do we address that?
So both of them, and the second part is to make sure those relationships, because there are countries that see it in a negative side, because I know there are certain countries has initially saw it in a negative side whereby they didn't like the CBI program. But just to ensure that our passport isn't then rejected by different countries that we currently could travel to freely, how do we ensure that something that doesn't occur?
Okay, thank you. So I think education and communication is the way to address the perspective that the Citizenship by Investment Program, or what we call Investment Migration Program, is negative. So I'll talk a little bit about investment. Traditionally, the way places like Grenada used to get investment was by what is called foreign direct investment, meaning someone who's not from Grenada comes to Grenada with his money and tries to invest in Grenada. But for a long time, it's very difficult to actually find people who want to do so. And one of the main reasons for this is because Grenada is just a small island, and the same goes for most of the OECS countries. So you can do the scale. If you had $1 million and you had a product to sell, and you can go to a country, I'll use Trinidad as an example. Trinidad has roughly, 2 million people, and Grenada has 100,000. So Trinidad is a couple 10 times larger than Grenada. So from a profitability point of view, the population is larger, and you are likely to just make much more money if you invested there than if you invested in Grenada. So over time, what has been happening is that less and less people are coming to invest in small places like Grenada. And if they do come, they will ask you for all kinds of concessions to actually come. They will not want to pay any taxes, either before they start, when they start, and after they start. And so from that perspective, the government doesn't get any revenue. The business may provide employment to people, but oftentimes, depending on the nature of the business, the employment is low-paid jobs. So, and even that has been getting less and less. So for small islands, it is very difficult to attract foreign direct investment. And so we have to find creative ways to actually be able to bring revenue, money, income, and wealth into places like Grenada. And the Citizenship by Investment program is one such program. They're actually investing in the country. And we were saying for investing in the country, we are prepared to offer you citizenship because you have chosen to invest in Grenada. So that's the incentive for investing in Grenada. It's not buying a passport. It is investing in a country, and in exchange for investing in the country, you've been able to get the benefit of being a citizen. But there are reasons why people will do so. You may ask yourself, well, why would I want to invest in a country and become a citizen of another country? Well, for one, there are people who are stateless. There are people who don't belong to a state. They have no nationality. And if you don't belong to a state and you have no nationality, you can't travel. Because if you don't have a passport, you can't travel. So, for example, if you're a Palestinian, Palestine is not a state that is recognized by the world. And so if you're born in Palestine, for you really to leave Palestine, you have to find someone with a passport to travel on. That's just an example. Or there are other countries where, for political or geopolitical reasons, or because your government is at war with another government or something like that, they have sanctions. Or sometimes there's a dispute. I'll give an example. The government of Dubai decided to ban all Nigerians from entering Dubai. So if you're a Nigerian, you could have been going to Dubai this month, and you want to go back next month because you have a business in Dubai or your child is studying at a university there, and you find yourself not being able to go because they will not allow anybody who's a Nigerian to enter. I'm not going to get into the reasons, but it just means you can't go. And so the only way to go is if you are a citizen of another country, or if you are lucky enough to have dual citizenship, so you have another passport. So I'm just giving examples like this. Or sometimes people may be born in a particular country, but they're persecuted because of how they look, or where they're born, or their ethnicity. And so in those instances, they may want to, or may have to leave to save themselves and their families. And sometimes they are wealthy. And they would want to be welcome in a place where people don't discriminate against them. And they get an opportunity to come and live and to be able to grow and develop the country. And depending on where they are, they may also be bringing skills or experiences or connections that we don't have in the country. So from a Grenada perspective, the investment migration business or the citizenship by investment is a very good and positive thing. There are some countries who are worried about it because, for example, if you have a Grenada passport, you can go to the United Kingdom without a visa. And they want to make sure that the persons who have our passports are not persons who otherwise would require a visa to come to the UK. So what we've assured them is that our checks and the due diligence and the background checks and the criminal checks and the everything, our checks start from the time they born right up until the point in time that they apply. From their education, their background, their family, their businesses. We assure them that the checks we do are thorough, they're done to international standards, they're done by international service providers, they're done by FIU, they're done by regional criminal investigation units, they're done by Interpol, the International Police Organization, and we assure them that we are doing so of the high standards. And sometimes even when people are not criminals or have no issues, but they have what we call reputational issues. So if you go online and you Google them and people are saying bad things about them, whether it's true or not, even in those circumstances, we deny them the right to invest in Grenada and the right for citizenship. So that's how we assure persons who think it's that there's a risk, that we are doing everything to mitigate that risk. So I hope I've answered the two questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Go right ahead.
Hi, good night, everyone. My name is Isaac Melanson. I have a few questions for the different panelists, actually. So for Ms. Thomas, you were speaking about the training for cybersecurity. Are those type of workshops and trainings only available on the social medias, or do you guys have a email newsletter or anything like that to keep you kind of updated, and so you can get kind of notifications for these types of things?
So that's a very good observation, and that's one of the things that we have in the works. That's why we asked you to register when you came in here, so we would have taken your WhatsApp, we would have taken your email address, so that we can send information on programs, on projects directly to your emails.
Oh, yeah, okay. And for Mr. Redhead as well, you were speaking about the support for people in the agriculture sector and stuff like that. What kind of support are you speaking of directly? And are there any plans for concessions or anything like that to bring equipment for agriculture into the country? Because at the end of the day, the more equipment there is for farming is better for the country as a whole. So, yeah.
Thank you. So on the agricultural side, farmers are already one of the most supported groups of people in the country. There are concessions already in place, from vehicles to agricultural inputs. That's just on the concession side. So farmers are permitted to import inputs for their farming, for their farms, and little or no taxes are paid on it. In addition to that, the government itself subsidizes the cost of fertilizers and distributes it to farmers. The government subsidizes the cost of plants at all of the propagation centers, Maribo, Ashenden, etc., and distributes it to the farmers. In instances where you have floods or hurricanes, for example, the government provides assistance with the cleanup, the chainsaws, paying for some of the farm labor support that is required to clear the roads, clear the farms. Almost every year on an annual basis, there's a farm labor support where the government actually pays to provide some form of farming labor support to farmers to help them. So the government support for farmers is extensive. Just before the hurricane struck, the government agreed to pay the insurance premium to allow the cocoa farmers and the nutmeg farmers to buy insurance to cover them in the event there was a hurricane or so. And as it turns out, there was a hurricane. So again, they were able to receive payouts from insurance companies to be able to assist with paying the farmers. And as you may be aware, on last Friday, or 2 Fridays back. Last Friday, last Thursday, the government paid out to farmers 5,000 checks, from $4,500 to $9,000 in income support to farmers who've been impacted by the Hurricane Beryl. The support and so on is also going to be extended to poultry farmers as well, in terms of supporting them. I think just a couple of weeks ago, the government gave out chicks to poultry farmers. We are going to do everything we can to also get them feed, and I think there's a second round of that is coming as well. So we are quite keen to support food security in the country. We are quite keen to encourage people to see farming as a career and as a business. And as a result of that, a lot of the support that we are giving is really to ensure, particularly at the beginning when it's challenging and difficult, that persons can have support in terms of helping them in some of those areas. I mean, no one from the Ministry of Agriculture is here, but you know, there are all kinds of things, even plants like coconut plants. The governments in the past have sought to get crop varieties from places like Mexico and so on to introduce here, to try and ensure that you could have more resistant coconut plants and so on growing. So there's a lot of support for farmers. I think to your point earlier about how and to the other person's point earlier about how information is communicated and the amount of assistance that already exists, but it doesn't appear that people know, particularly young persons. I think it would be for us to make sure that we can find perhaps a more sexy way of communicating the information, so that people are aware of it and they can have access to it quite easily.
Yeah, and last question, I don't know if there's any grants available for people that are in agriculture, specifically agro-processing and stuff like that as well, because that ties in with the guaranteed market for the farmers. People that are involved in agro-processing obviously need to be able to process the goods that the farmers are getting.
Just clarify for us, you said lands or grants?
Grants.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Yes. When we got into office in 2022, we had the CES grant, which basically granted up to $30,000 with particular emphasis on farmers and fishermen. It ran into the millions of dollars. So that's one example of the type of programs that have given grants in the past. You have the Climate Smart Agriculture Enterprise Project, known as SIPE. That also gives grants to particularly persons who are disadvantaged, and to a large extent it's farming agricultural grants as well. You have Youth in Agriculture, which is also giving some grant funding to young people in agriculture as well. And I'm sure the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Youth would be looking at even further possibilities for doing grants for young persons in agriculture, as well as agro-processing. Because again, even under CES, a lot of the persons who benefited were agro-processors as well. But we also have to encourage people to collaborate a bit more, because sometimes we spend a lot of money on individualistic approaches, which if we came together, could cut our cost and lower the cost of production and therefore give you greater room for production. I'll give you a simple example. You know, if you have small plots of farmers farming, and each of them buys a vehicle, a pickup, and the purpose of the pickup is just to take the produce to town, it means each of them are paying the maintenance costs of a vehicle, the insurance costs, the tires, etc. But if the production isn't great enough, and if you're going on with, I don't know, two bunches of planting or something in the back of a whole van, it's a lot cheaper if you came together and loaded up one van and took it to town, and share the cost of the vehicle. But oftentimes people take a very individualistic approach to business, as opposed to taking a more joint venture type approach and pulling their resources. And as a result of that, their costs, their individual marginal costs tend to be high, and therefore it's difficult for them to make profit. And it also means the cost of everything goes up as well, because you then have to factor in, from your whatever product you're selling, you then have to divide that by your total cost, which you alone is bearing. So even things like pumps and so on, it's likely using a pump for 1 hour or 2 hours. So we need to find farming cooperatives where you can then share the pump, rather than each of you going and buy a pump. So that's part of the things we need to do. So a lot of times the grant funding is given, but it's done in an individualistic way, and it doesn't have the kind of impact that we want it to have. So that's part of the business training and so on that has to go on so that people understand costs and expenses and how that impacts the success. But yes, there are a lot of grant programs that have been available in the past, and we expect more will continue in the future.
Hello. Would that information also be found on the Division of Youth social media, like when those grants are available? And then also, is there some kind of list that could be found of, for example, farmers that have certain crops, like through the Ministry of Agriculture or anything like that, to connect agro-processors with the things that they need? Because most farmers, you have to have a farmer's ID. I don't know if all the crops that they do are registered under their farmer's ID, because most of them are registered under one specific crop, even if they have many. But is there some kind of way of connecting agro-processors with farmers?
I will verify that through the Ministry of Agriculture, but I know there's an agro-processing desk, and clearly the Ministry of Agriculture is also the one issuing the farmer's ID. So to my mind, it should be a simple fix, but that's my mind. So if it doesn't exist, I think we will note it as a valid recommendation to make sure, because I know that's a challenge for agro-processors, sometimes getting the raw materials from farmers. But I think it's a very good suggestion to make sure that that link between the farmers and the agro-processors is created so that the agro-processors have a list and vice versa, the farmers have a list. So thank you for the suggestion.
Thank you.
If I can just add to the final question that you asked in regards to if there are information being disseminated with specific products that farmers produce, the Climate Smart Agricultural Enterprise Project, SIEP, their marketing team, this is something that they engage in. So once the farmers, all the farmers that are registered, they take the information, whatever produce that they have available, and they disseminate it once it is available to everyone. So you can also follow their social media pages and subscribe to their mailing list, and you'll be able to get that information.
Thank you again, Mr. Prime Minister, and thank you, Senator Seville. I believe I saw someone else approaching the mic. Go right ahead.
Pleasant good night to everyone. Hold on. Pleasant good night to everyone.
Before you begin, let me remind you, please, when you come up to make your contribution, please state your name. Thank you.
My name is Ezra Sylvester, and I wanted to surround my question around the manifesto which spoke about youth development. And there was a section which basically spoke about empowering our people heading youth development. So Ms. Perman would have mentioned that national youth election would be held on December 5th. She also mentioned that there were candidates selected for that. I wanted to know how the candidates were selected, and also if this is the section that answers to create a national youth advisory mechanism to provide policy advice to the cabinet and government. Is this the mechanism that the manifesto is speaking of? And also, I wanted to look at the section where it says in the manifesto, because I believe the governance should be guided by the principles in the manifesto, where it says to reimage the Imani program to provide more industry-ready training opportunities that will lead to sustainable employment. What has the government done different to the previous administration when it comes to the Imani program? And also, it mentioned that ensure that there is at least one person aged 30 years or younger serving on the board of directors. Is there data to confirm that actually happened? And the last thing, there is also an establishment of an annual youth and student science and technology exhibition that I wanted to ensure that the Ministry of Youth is in alignment with the manifesto and the vision of the current administration.
All right, thank you.
I think you should remain at the mic. You may have to repeat some of the questions. So let's go one at a time. The first one.
All right, so I think let me just go through the process for you. We started with an open call for persons who were interested in the Youth Parliament program. That was done nationally throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. After which persons were engaged in training, a series of training for almost 2 months, I believe, of training where they were engaged in parliamentary style debates and the civic responsibility and a number of these types of engagement. They had their parish level sitting. Each parish had their sitting. St. John and St. Mark had a joint sitting, and Carriacou, their sitting is delayed due to Hurricane Beryl. Each sitting, there were a cohort of judges who judged the sitting, and they, based on the scores, the top debaters were then moved on to the next stage, which is the candidacy stage. Yeah? So that is where you would have seen the candidates from St. George this evening.
In addition to that, do you think that collaborating with clubs or NGOs and groups would have strengthened the pool to make it more diverse in Grenada, opposed to certain people probably did not get to the information, or it was not as is on?
Well, that's collaboration is always awesome. However, the program was advertised. It was advertised for quite a while, and it was an open call. Everybody who registered had an opportunity to be part of the parish sitting. Yes, so it was definitely open. There wasn't any barriers. There wasn't any quotas that we had to meet when it came to the parish sitting. Everyone who registered, once you came to the training, you were allowed to be a part of the debates.
If I may add to what the coordinator said, I can confirm that that was the process indeed, because I was a part of the judging panel for the youth parliament at the parish level. All right,
So is that, I was asking in regards to the manifesto, this is the mechanism.
So I'll answer that. No, I'm saying no because the cabinet, which ultimately determines policy, has not addressed its mind to the mechanism by which we will create the advisory body. And I'm going to thank you for now forcing me to make sure that myself and our colleagues in cabinet, and in particular the Minister for Youth, who's here, could address our collective minds to that issue. And I will take the question on data to verify whether there is a 30 or under-year-old sitting on every board. I would answer this by saying definitely there isn't a 30-year-old or under sitting on every board. But conversely, I can see that on many boards, there are persons who are 30 and under sitting. For sure, there were two things we attempted to do. We may not have been able to do it in all cases, which is to have female representation and youth representation. And then the third one was diaspora representation on the boards. In some instances, we've succeeded. In some instances, we've not succeeded. But it's a work in progress, and to your point, we probably could be more deliberate about actually collecting the data and verifying, so that we get a sense of how good or how bad we are doing, and how rapidly we need to improve. So thank you for that, and I've made a note of that.
There was one question left unanswered. The one in regards to what different is the reimaging, yeah.
So you stated clearly that in the manifesto it spoke about reimagining the Imani program, and you would appreciate, in order to reimagine, we must know exactly what we're dealing with, what are the data, and so for the last year plus, there have been a process of cleaning up the data. And that was a major challenge, because to me, the program that the ministry had in terms of telling you how many trainees you have, where they are, though you were paying them, there were issues in identifying where they are. So recently you realized that they had a re-certification, that's what you call it? A re-registration, to give us an appreciation of who these over 1,000 or 2,000 persons are, where they are, and how do we move forward in terms of new programming. However, while we were doing that, we did not stop in terms of providing support for young people. And so the issue of the age as it relates to the age from 16 to 17 inclusive, so it's just before 18, to keep you longer in secondary school, is aimed at that particular issue. So that more, because one of the issues we saw is that a lot of people leave school 16, 17 home, did not even go to the majority of people in the Imani programs are either secondary dropouts or just attain the Form 5 level. Yes, we had people with degrees, but not as much as, so the larger numbers were people who finished school in maybe primary school, who drop out to secondary school or just do the secondary level. So we realized that we as a government had to provide the necessary training. And so that's where the TVET and other technical training we are looking at this time. So we are looking at centers of excellence that would enable these young people to be trained. We are also looking at apprenticeship. So we are looking at other programs, even the issue of the cybersecurity, where we said our pilot will include 100, but we are looking in the new year to have more than that. So now that we have all the data, we can now unveil programs that is different. And the truth is, the Imani do have some success stories, but we must appreciate that if we have young people, over 1,000 of them, in a program for more than 4 or 5 years, and some even as much as 10 years, then we have a problem there. So we are now putting structures in place to ensure that we do not have those issues. But we'll continue to provide scholarship opportunities for young people. We'll continue to provide apprenticeship training for young people. We will work with the Ministry of Labor to have an appreciation of where the jobs are, because they know what people are coming in Grenada to do. So we'll provide those necessary training. And so in our unveiling of our new programs, which will be before the end of the year, that will be, it will give the Imani a reimagination. So what you will see is new programs that that is strategically placed so that there would not be nobody who's more than 2-3 years in a program. What we see, we have over 125 persons at this time in the private sector being paid by government. So government is paying trainees to be in the private sector, working in the private sector, and for $700. Because you appreciate that when the minimum wage was changed, government made a decision for those who are involved in the government ministries or government areas to make it $1,200. But those in the private sector continue to get $700 or $1,000. But we are saying that we have to change that. So one of the decisions that we are taking as it relates to that is having some discussion and dialogue that I do not want to go in depth, with those businesses to ensure that either they keep these trainees or we find new engagement for them, because you can't continue to be trainees. If you're there 4 or 5 years in a program working, then you are working, and so you should be compensated for the work that you're doing and not be treated like a slave, because we're not in slavery anymore. So we have to change that and to ensure that if we're serious about our young people, if we're serious about empowering, then our mode of engaging our young people must be different, and that's what we are looking to do.
Okay, thank you.
Good night, my name is Shakara Charles, and my question today is, why can buses drop off school children and people on top of Market Hill? You may say it's traffic, but that answer would not make any sense because it still have traffic on top Market Hill. And I personally think that decision is affecting we school children and other people who is working in that area. Because I have observed that school children is spending the other money to pay buses to reach on top of St. John Street so they can drop off at the school. And who don't have money to pay for the bus, they walk, and by the time they reach in school, they'll be sweaty and sometimes late because the power you have to go all downtown, right? And
do you have? Can you?
And then,
are you going to a second question? Can I
No.
ask you to?
It's
It's not a second question. Okay, go right ahead.
Right. So, and parents parents of the little children in mother rows, right? They have to go all along town and still plus walk back up the hill to drop their children and walk back down the hill to go to their workplace. And I find that decision is not making any sense and it's affecting a lot of us. Thank you.
So we definitely have some people who agree with you in the audience. So I turn to the head table to provide you with a response.
So, I went to Presentation College. Walking is good. The traffic is, well, first of all, I don't know if any decisions have been made about where people can drop or not. And if it is, it's made by the police who have the authority to control traffic. So the police will make those determinations. And I'm sure if good or valid reasons are made for, making a request to change where people can drop and not drop their kids, I'm sure the head of traffic or the commissioner of police would be prepared to have a discussion with it and to entertain it. So that would be my response. But my first response about walking is still valid. We need to walk a lot more in Grenada so that we could be healthier, right? The truth is, on mornings, the traffic is pretty bad. And for example, the student who walks up Old Fort gets to PBC or Convent before all of those in the vehicle because the vehicles are not moving anywhere because of how bad the traffic is. So we have a lot of vehicles. Everyone is trying to come into town. From the time you hit all of the main points, Tantine, top of Lucas Street, River Roadside, the traffic crawls. So I certainly appreciate that for young kids. You want to make sure that they're safe and they're not on the road, especially when you don't have sidewalks. But in and of itself, sometimes it's actually more efficient to actually walk than to drive right up to the point where you want to drop the child. And you see it every day, right? That it takes a long time to crawl through the narrow streets we have to drop everyone to the entrance of the respective schools, all of which are very close to each other. So it's a give and take situation, but I'm sure based on the claps that I heard, that people think you should be permitted to drop people off at the top of Market Hill. And if that's the case, then I'm sure it could be raised with the traffic department for consideration. Thank you.
So I'll try it for one day. On Monday, I will park my vehicle and I will walk. Let's see. All right, we have another person.
Pleasant good night.
Good night.
With protocol already established, I'd like to have a few questions. One, as you can see, I'm disabled. I'd like to know, after, they say universal education for all, but after a child who are disabled or differently able finish school, is there any program or initiative in the pipeline for those people? That's one. Two, transportation. People who are differently abled, I know the ministry has disability buses. Is there anything that, any plans or anything in the making for people who wishes to use the disability buses, because it's not even privately accessible for people who are disabled? Is there anything that can be done in that aspect? Also, I have a big concern with traversing the streets of St. George's with all the sellings and so on and the sidewalk. I'm in a wheelchair and I've had to move. I have to go in the road to maneuver and so on. That's a big issue for me. So can you help me and then I'll continue?
All right, so could you repeat the first question, please? Sorry.
Well, I was saying this universal education for all. I want to know if the Division of Youth have anything available for people who are like any programs or any initiative for anybody that is who are differently abled.
Thank you for that question. All our programs are inclusive, so we do not cater to persons with disabilities specifically, but persons who have disabilities and they're interested in our programs, we ensure that we cater for them and they are able to take advantage of all our programs.
If I could just share an example. Today was TAMCC graduation, and I'm certain you know Abel, young Abel, right? And he graduated today with his disability, and it was a wonderful sight. He got a standing ovation almost, and people cheered him on because it shows that in Grenada, notwithstanding you have a disability, you could still complete your degree. So it's open, as the youth coordinator said, and it's inclusive.
My second one was on, my second question was about transportation. For me personally, I have to wait to go to work. I have to wait, if I go by the road, let's say 7 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, I have to wait until maybe after 8 when the rush hour is over for even a public bus to even take me. So I'd like to know if there's anything in the pipeline with disability buses available for people like me.
Well, I'll take the question. At this very moment, the answer is no. But it is something that certainly could be addressed. The Ministry of Education, I think, is the only ministry that has transportation that is specifically geared towards persons with disability. NADMA also had a bus that was donated by the Japanese government that was also custom built for persons with disability, so that, for example, you could actually get into the bus with a wheelchair and be on the wheelchair. But the public transportation system in Grenada, unfortunately, is in the hands of private people. So it will require, just like how we're having the school bus pilot, to try and see how we can address a more inclusive and comprehensive transportation system. I think as the Transport Commission begins to look at how we can improve transportation in Grenada in general, then obviously we will have to factor in how we address persons with disabilities or who are differently abled as well, to ensure that they are not left out. But I would certainly say legislation can help as well, because we can certainly ensure that we reinforce that persons are not to be discriminated against, certainly in terms of things like public transportation, by simply saying, well, we will only pick you up when, it's not rush hour and it suits us. So those are some, from a policy and a legislation perspective, those are things that we can certainly make a difference in, by making it clear that if you're caught discriminating against someone who's differently abled or disabled simply because you figure it will take longer for them to get into the vehicle or so, that we discourage that kind of behavior.
And my last personal issue is, you guys say universal education. There's a lot of people who are hearing impaired, people who has a limb or hand deficiency, and they're in the school system, and some of them are unable to use the device to write and so on. Is there anything the government can do to assist in people with the special devices, maybe the Braille and so on, in the school system, or the hearing aid, or people with sign language, so could assist in schools and so on, that can help in that aspect? Or even those who are limb impaired, they can, get a device that could help them write or get the work done in a timely manner?
So I will certainly raise this with the Ministry of Education. We certainly would have to train a lot more people, particularly when it comes to things like sign language, to make this a bit more universal. Certainly for some public events and government events, for example, when Parliament is sitting and so on, we try to make sure that there is someone who can do the sign language so that persons who are hearing impaired can benefit from it. The school for the hearing impaired in St. Paul's, Penmutter, on the borderline, is vibrant and very active. And we are lucky that we can actually have teachers from there who oftentimes volunteer to help with things like sign language at public events. But without question, there's a need for a lot more sensitization, a lot more investment in addressing those issues, including being able to provide things like Braille and so on in schools. I don't see this as a difficult ask, because I think we should be able to clearly identify the numbers of persons in the education system who suffer from some sort of impairment, and be able to get technology and the devices to be able to address that. So I will take that as part of a budget consultation note one time and indicate to the Minister of Education that as part of their response for the budget, that they should be looking at ensuring that they can get data on the number of persons who are impaired within the education system and make sure that we can have the facilities that can help them. Thank you very much.
All right, good night, everyone. My name is Jahim Franklin, and
Go ahead.
right, good night again. My name is Jahim Franklin, and I'm from Brazan. So there's 4 points that I just want to touch on very briefly. The first two kind of coincide with each other, so I guess I'll say them together, and if you need me to repeat, I'll repeat. My first point, what are the government's plans as it relates to retaining human capital? Because, you know, many of the times people would do courses or whatever the case may be, or there are certain courses or schools that are not available here. For example, piloting. I have a really close friend, he went abroad to do piloting, and, well, he ended up staying where he is because there isn't any opportunity here for him to pursue that career here. So what are the government's plan as it relates to retaining human capital? Additionally, the second point that kind of goes hand in hand is as it relates to work experience. Many of the times when us young people apply for jobs, with our degree, they ask for a certain number of years of experience. But my question is, how can we have that experience if we are not given the job in the field in the first place? And I know many of the times we are discriminated because of our age when applying for jobs. You know, they say we're young, we're naive, we don't really know what we're doing. So, yeah, those are my first 2 points. They kind of go hand in hand. So if you touch on that, and I'll give the other two after.
All right, so for small islands, you're going to have some element of what is called brain drain or human capital flight. That's inevitable, simply because you have very talented people who may study unique skill sets that the country simply does not have the capacity to absorb. And you use pilots, that's probably an example, because Grenada doesn't have a national airlines. If you look at the Caribbean, we only have Caribbean Airlines, which operates out of Trinidad and Tobago. And Liat, which is limping along. So in that sense, you do have other airlines like Inter-Caribbean and so on, which is regional, but their capacity to absorb large amounts of pilots or flight attendants or so on is limited. So it's not unexpected that if someone genuinely wants to pursue a career of being a pilot, that they would leave. But I think there are areas that we can focus on that can allow us to retain our people or human capital. And I'll use the cybersecurity training course that Minister spoke about as a perfect example. The truth is, if people can be trained and provide their skill regionally or internationally without leaving Grenada, then that's how you are going to be able to retain human capital. So it means we have to decide what are the areas we are actually going to invest and educate people in that allows them to not want to leave. And to me, there are two areas for that. We need a more skills-based education system because there is a massive shortage of skilled people in Grenada across almost every sector. And we can take the construction sector, which is probably the second or third largest sector in Grenada. So because the education system right now is not skills-based, when you exit TAMCC or when you exit high school, you generally don't have any skills. You generally don't know anything about engineering or quasi-engineering, mechanics, machines, heavy equipment, construction, whether it's carpentry, masonry, glassware, tiling, painting, any of those things. Now, and I'm using one industry only, that's construction. If you enter the construction industry as a laborer, which means you have no skills, you could have 20 subjects, they don't care. You could have a first degree, they don't care. They will ask you, can you paint? And if you can't paint, then basically you're a laborer. If you're not a carpenter or a mason, as in you didn't learn it in school, and I'm not talking here experience, I'm just talking about the actual skill set, then what is going to happen is that they're going to tell you need to drag sand, you need to drag blocks, and you need to carry water. And that's the basic form of human existence. And they will basically pay you $40 or $50 or $60 a day. And it's back-breaking work in the hot sun, right? And it is only so much of that you can take. After a while, you probably don't want to wake up in the morning, the money ain't enough, so you show up for 2 days or 3 days, so you become highly susceptible to being unemployed. And then if that is not what you thought you were going to do when you exited school, your attitude to the work then becomes bad, right? And then it begins to all go downhill. Contrast that with a painter or a carpenter or a mason. They're making $120 a day, $150 a day, $140. They could start demanding the price and say, well, they enter a lot of plumbers, they enter a lot of carpenters, they enter a lot of electricians, so take it or leave it, right? So one way of retaining the human capital here is to make sure that we train our human capital to reflect the things that we need in Grenada. So in the marine sector, for example, that's a huge sector in Grenada. But our education system doesn't teach you anything about boat building, about boat painting, boat repairs, the machines, the engines for the boats, fiberglass. We don't teach any of those things. I mean, it is completely absent from the education system, right? So it means we are importing people from South Africa, from the US, from South America to work on people's boats here. And the boats come because even though we get hit by hurricanes, we're still least likely to get hit by a hurricane within the Caribbean because we're further south. So during the hurricane season, the boats come down. But we don't have the skills to work, to repair, to maintain the boats because our education system is not doing that. So it goes back to the type of education system we have. If we have an education system that reflects our actual environment and the needs of the society, then people are going to stay. Also, we have to think about the economy of the future. That's why digital skills and technology is important. Because once you have the internet and you have your skills, you can sell it anywhere without leaving your country. So if you're a software engineer, you don't need to be in America to build a website for someone in America. You could build a website from Grenada. So if we equip persons with the right skill sets and the right training, there's a lot of what they call nearshoring business, where basically it's too expensive to do that kind of business in America, back office stuff, so they're looking to find a cheaper venue, a cheaper location to do it, and they're prepared to pay for it. But if we don't have the skill set to do it, then essentially they will move elsewhere. So that's another way of ensuring that we can retain human capital. So it basically means our education system has to be more tailored to the things the skills and the services that we need in Grenada. That basically is the plan for doing so.
The second question that you asked in terms of obtaining the experience that oftentimes employers ask for, I can speak from experience. Yeah? So since we're speaking about experience, I'll use a personal experience. Sometimes we think of experience as employment, but you can gain experience through many different avenues. So for example, you are part of the Leo Club. You may hold an executive position within the organization. That is you gaining experience. Now, what we often fail to do is to use the experience to showcase what we can do with that when it comes to becoming employed. So you may want to apply for a managerial position and you are the president of the Leo Club for 2 years. Don't you think that is managerial experience you're gaining there? It's how you market yourself with the experiences that you gain. So volunteerism is one of the easiest way to gain experience. And I think you know that by now, but I just wanted to chime in and share that these are some of the ways that you could obtain the experiences. So as early as secondary school, the cadet corps, let's say for example you want to go into the police force, There's the Police Boys Club, the Cadet Corps. That is you gaining experience to market yourself. You may want to become a politician. I was once a national youth parliamentarian. Yeah, so I gained experience through opportunities that were not tangible in terms of obtaining money for it. But now I can use the experiences that I gain to transfer it into an employable situation. Yeah.
All right, and to add to that question specifically, all our programs that deals with training, long-term training, certification training, etc., the Division of Youth, we ensure to have an apprenticeship component to it, which gives you that experience that you need when you're applying for full-time employment. I also want to add that we would have recognized that as well, some of the points that Senator raised. That's why in our job preparedness workshop, we allowed we cater to that, and we trained our young persons in how to curate their CVs to incorporate experiences they would have gained while they're in school, while they're engaged in voluntary activities, etc. How do you sell yourself on paper to show that you have experience, even if it's outside of the typical work?
And if you are looking for assistance in developing your CV, to reflect that, Mr. Gaspard at the front, he's really good at that. He was one of the persons instrumental in helping me to realize that I have a lot of experience that can be transferred into the world of work. So you can check Mr. Gaspard, and he will definitely help you. And I know he's always willing to help young people when it comes to that. Yes, I put you on the spot, and thank you for being here.
Right, so I want to chip in here as well, right? And I want to make a general comment to young people. They would have said the same thing about me. Right? And I'm the Prime Minister. So you have to, sometimes experience is bad actually. Because a lot of what people experience are bad experiences, wrong attitude, bad work ethic, etc. And usually if they have experience or multiple experiences, it's probably an indication that they're not good at what they're doing. Because if they were good at it, they probably would have been sticking with it and successful at it. So my advice to you, when you see applications that talk about 2 or 3 years experience or 5 years experience, is confront that. Clearly say, I don't have the experience. But that is not what's going to make the difference whether you're successful or not. Advocate for why you should get the job. For the energy you bring, for the passion, the willingness to learn, the fact that you ain't had no bad attitude, no bad habits because you had no bad experience, and therefore you are saying, give me the chance because it's an opportunity for me to create a new and a different experience for you as the employer, right? Because most times, honestly, a lot of that experience amounts to zero. It doesn't actually do anything when you get to the job. So I would say when you see those opportunities where they're saying, don't hide or pretend if you don't have the experience on a specific job, the specific technical issue that they may be raising, but point out that you're a Grenadian, point out that you're young, that you're dynamic, that you're energetic, that you're ambitious, and they should give you the opportunity to learn. Because most jobs in Grenada, you can learn on the job. And learn on the job in a pretty quick time. So I would certainly say don't let the request for experience daunt you in terms of making the applications and being bullish or robust about trying to get a job.
All right, thank you for that. So my third point I want to touch on is, okay, I know the government would have put out the initiative of making some online courses available for many people, but I want to ask, what about access to courses or like certifications for world recognized certifications? For example, well, I'm an auditor, and I noticed that there is currently a shortage of accountants in Grenada. A lot of businesses need an accountant that they don't have, and they tend to have to outsource them from other islands. So and I know, well, from many of my peers who I went to TAMCC with, some of them don't pursue the field after TAMCC because, you know, it's the certification for ACCA or CIMA or CPA, because I'm doing ACCA currently, and let me tell you, it is not cheap from examination to classes, it is not cheap. So does the government plan on like implementing free courses or even subsidizing for access to courses like these? 'Cause I know we have TVET already, but like stuff like for the young professionals, if the government has any plans for that.
I think the government has put together a cabinet subcommittee to review, in a sense, what should and shouldn't be priority areas for Grenada and how the government can support that. So that work is ongoing, because part of the challenge is that sometimes people study things and come to the government for assistance in areas that we don't think will drive, in a sense, the kind of economic growth or development of the country, or will provide the kind of high-level income that people want. So we have to find a way. This is a free society, and people are free to study whatever they want, right? But we also have to guide people by saying, listen, if you go and you just do a psychology degree in Grenada, which it appears a lot of people are doing, what are you going to do with a psychology degree? What employment are you going to get with a psychology degree? And be honest with them to say, okay, have you thought about the areas in which there are high demand? So we have to make sure that what people studies, and I don't just mean academic studies here, I mean technical, vocational, digital, professional, matches or aligns with the reality of the world, right? And I'm saying this because we cannot now underappreciate what artificial intelligence is going to do to a lot of routine administrative jobs that somehow people think they've studied for and they feel they should be paid a lot of money, when in effect you can press a button and ask the computer a question and they can write a story or a CV or an entire program for you on anything. You can go and ask artificial intelligence to write a political strategy for the National Democratic Congress to win the next election in Grenada, and it will give you in 5 minutes. So some hotshot is going to come and tell me he's a political consultant and he wants to write a strategy for me. And I'll say to him, well, thank you. How much are you charging me? They'll tell you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm like, okay, fine. Click. And can you do this for me in 5 minutes? No. And can you constantly revise and revise it and revise it or not? So I'm saying that to say that even from a government perspective, we are living at a time of very rapid change. And so we have to kind of figure out what are the areas that we know the country will need now and in the future, and how can we guide people and support them by incentives, grants, scholarships, etc., to do those things that will actually get them employment, or give them an opportunity to pursue a career. So I'm saying specific to accounting, there's no question there's a shortage of accountants in Grenada. The question is why? Because it seems somehow between primary, high school, and tertiary school, people don't seem to want to study accounting all the way through. So cost is obviously one of the things you're saying that's a factor, so we have to see how we can address that. But some of it may be also people get scared of numbers because we're not doing a good job of teaching math in our primary and secondary school. So anything that has math, people should start backing away from it by the droves. So that's one of the things we have to look at as well. But as I said, we are reviewing what areas we should prioritize and what areas we can support, so that we can then develop the policy around that and then come back to the public with it.
Okay, final point. It's my final point. As it relates to the private sector, I used to work in a specific business within the private sector, and there were a number of employees there that were on contract for like 6 going on 7 years. And I know that's a private sector, so the government may not be able to infringe too much on it, but like what regulations or sanctions or whatever the case may be that you plan or might be able to put in place to see that, okay, after a certain amount of time, these people are now either permanent upon review or released from the organization. Yeah, because when you're on contract, you can't even apply for a loan or whatever the case may be. So, and that is a very damning situation. So, yeah.
So the Attorney General is here, so she'll probably answer that question. And we use the word permanent a lot. It's not really permanent. It's indefinite, because all employment can end. All contracts can end, from marriage to any type of commercial relationship. The law permits you to end it, right? So it's not that it's permanent as in it cannot end. It's indefinite as in as long as the parties want it to continue, it continues. But on the specific question of the contract work and what the existing law is, I'll have the Attorney General respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As Prime Minister said, parties are free to enter into contractual relationships, and sometimes that relationship is one of employer and employees. However, the Employment Act makes provision for where there is a period of continuous employment for the employee to be considered to be what we commonly call permanently employed. So even where you have continuous renewal of contracts, the employer may well find that certain benefits that will redound to a person who does not have a specific contractual period attached to their employment will still apply to those persons. So the Employment Act actually does make provision for that. Sometimes we just need to know our rights. Thank you.
Now, I know that we have a lot of ideas in this room, and we can easily stay here until this time tomorrow having a discussion. But in the interest of time, though, we need to pull the curtains down on this evening's engagement. Can you be succinct? Can you ask your question in 30 seconds?
Sorry. Definitely. Good evening, everyone. All protocol observed. My name is Tapiana Shehal Kozi, and my question is based on my interest in diplomacy. Having studied international relations, I'd like to know, what is the government doing to train the future diplomats of Grenada in terms of actually getting a good cohort, so that by the time you're looking for the next ambassadors, you're not scrambling to find people. You've already trained them in the diplomatic arts.
Thank you. So we inherited a pretty poor state of diplomacy, let's put it this way, at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And the minister and his management team have spent a lot of time actually recruiting persons, first and foremost, to begin to strengthen the team at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We have also sought to give opportunities to persons who are already at the ministry but who previously had not gotten an opportunity to serve outside of Grenada. And so if you observe, you would see, for example, that our High Commissioner in the United Kingdom is a young female High Commissioner. Our representative at the United Nations is a career officer at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, also quite young. And that I'm just using those two examples. The person who is, in a sense, second in command in the UK is also female and quite young. Mr. Kerry Frank, who's been a young man who's been at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs working a lot of protocol, has just been appointed as the Deputy Consul General in Miami. So we're doing this so that we can actually begin to give that opportunity to young persons to serve, as well as to have deliberate and dedicated training that is taking place. So we've been bringing back, for example, some of the senior diplomats who've been career diplomats and who've worked in this process for a long time to provide consulting and training services to some of the staff there, so that we can give them the opportunity over time to grow into full-time diplomats. I think as well that the ministry has been working on sort of having a core group of protocol officers from throughout the ministry in general, So things like protocol and so on is being taught, whether or not you work in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so that it gives you the opportunity to in a sense, get that kind of training. Because obviously from time to time we host large events where we actually need a lot of persons as well. So I anticipate in some instances there are some more senior career type diplomats, for example, like Mr. Joseph in Brussels, who's serving. But I expect as time goes on, we in fact will be replacing them, but giving them the opportunity to train and mentor the next generation of diplomats in Grenada. So that is sort of the plan for now. I firmly believe that Grenada needs a group of dedicated professional diplomats who understand the power of diplomacy. Because for a small island, that's all you have. The ability to talk, the ability to persuade, the ability to get people to like you. And you could only do that by building relationships. If they don't, nobody's going to give you anything. Nobody's going to come to your help or come to your rescue. So that's part of the reason why we need to travel as well, so that people actually understand that you need to build relationships, and out of sight is out of mind when it comes to diplomacy. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Now, I know I said that you are going to be the last. However, when you are youth, when you're young, you have to be open to learning, and you have to be open to taking advice. So I'm going to do just that right now and invite anybody else who has a question to form a line so that we can see how many pending questions we have. Wow. Wow, it looks like if you'll have to come to St. David on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you are available this Sunday and you're interested in attending the St. David version of this youth talk, then please give your name and we will ensure that you get to that session. We'll provide you with transportation. So if your question can wait until Sunday, yes, and you can hold the youth coordinator to that. You'll get the first opportunity. You'll be the first to ask your questions. So we'll give you preference on Sunday.
Yes, and we do apologize for this. It also means maybe Mr. Prime Minister and Madam Minister, we may have to come back to St. George soon. Yeah? So we're just asking that you give your names at the back, and we'll provide transportation if you need it, and you will get priority on Sunday, please God. I hope you understand due to the time constraints.
Well, according to our PM, if we take one person, we have to take all. So we are inviting you to our next session on Sunday, please Lord, at the Wester Hall Secondary School. And the Prime Minister wants to welcome you to his parish, to his constituency. So let's welcome that invitation. All right. So at this point, thank you so much, young people. Thank you for coming and being so engaging. Let me give you a second just to settle back in. And please, I really do hope that you will accept the invitation to the session on Sunday. Please, the Lord. I know we heard a lot from the Prime Minister during the question and answer segment. However, I do want to give him the opportunity to... All right, so the Prime Minister is going to save his ideas for Sunday, please, Lord. So at this point, to officially say thanks, I'd like to welcome Mr. Jonathan Mitchell, South St. George youth candidate. Let's welcome him. And as Mr. Mitchell makes his way, I want to once again say thank you. I know we have some persons who had to leave, but thank you for taking interest in this session. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for sharing your ideas, for being open. Thank you to the head table for being so open and thorough with your responses. I know that there were some real thought-provoking questions and concerns for you to go back and address. All right. So Mr. Jonathan Mitchell is not with us at this time, so allow me to take the opportunity once again to thank you for engaging with the Division of Youth tonight, and we pray that God will grant you traveling mercies and continue to give you the strength. Is Jonathan? All right, I see Jonathan. Jonathan is coming. So Jonathan, please do us the honor of saying thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Because we are pressed for time, with protocol already established, I would like to say thanks to the ministers, the specially invited guests, colleagues, and especially the youths. I want to thank you for being here and voicing your concerns. And I know for sure that the government will put something in place for you guys. When I say you guys, I'm talking about myself as well. So I want to say thank you, and you guys are inspiration. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful evening.
And I would like to thank you for saying thank you, Mr. Jonathan. So it's late, and once again, we pray that God will bring us all home safely. Once more, I am Karine Francis John, and it was my pleasure to moderate this evening's session. On behalf of the Division of Youth, thank you again, and God bless us all.
Youth of St. George, it's your turn. Are you ready for your voices to be heard? After an exemplary Youth Talk launch in St. Andrew last week, the Division of Youth takes Youth Talk to the GBSS Auditorium this Thursday, October 24th from 7 p.m. Youth Talk, a series of engaging town hall meetings to be held in each parish targeted at engaging the nation's youth. Come share your voice and ideas to make a difference. Be heard, be involved, and be the change you want to see in your community and your country. This is your chance to share insights, feedback, and suggestions affecting youth and to create a platform for open dialogue. It's your space. We want to hear from you. It's your opportunity to inform policy and program development, strengthen community ties, and foster youth engagement in national development, education, employment, and other social issues. Youth of St. George, come out in your numbers and let your voices be heard at the GBSS Auditorium from 7 p.m. this Thursday. Wondering how you'll get there? Transportation will be provided for young people in St. George to and from the meeting. For more information, contact the Division of Youth or follow us on our social media platforms. Youth, let's talk. Youth of St. David, look out for your Youth Talk at the Westerhall Secondary School on Sunday,